There we go. We're
Got
live
it.
on YouTube.
Yep, we're live.
Baby.
Oh
All
my
right.
god.
An hour late.
Yeah, now we're like super mega
An hour late on the longest episode of the year, usually. So,
Yeah, perfect. Hey, 2020 has not left us.
well,
You're gonna see me keeping my stuff brief.
Mine's gonna be real short.
mine's gonna be short.
No, be being brief. We haven't done this. Now is the time.
Well, then we should have
Started
I
earlier.
started 6.
Sir, I'm doing the best I can. It's been a
Well,
rough
if you
day.
want to just bow out and let the big boys handle the man talk.
The man talk.
Well, then what are you
Really?
gonna do, Zach?
That's what I was gonna say.
I hate how I'm like, haha, and then just a door slams.
All right, we're not gonna do an intro for this one.
Okay.
We'll just start.
Okay.
Everybody ready?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
On this episode of the Culture Smash Cast, I'm sorry, we are doing.
I was about to say, are we not doing
Yeah,
it?
You know what happens when you look at your script? Oh.
Even.
All right, take two, baby. Take two. It's a Culture Smash Cast, episode 551 for January the 13th, 2021. I'm Stephen Lackey, editor of CultureSmash.tv. Nico?
Nicholas Qualls, contributor to CultureSmash.tv.
Tina?
Tina Heinbaugh, contributor to CultureSmash.tv.
Nathan?
Nathan Savino, contributor to CultureSmash.tv.
And Zach.
Zach Martin, I played more games and watched movies in 2020. I hate it.
That's literally what you do. All the
Normally
time.
it's the opposite.
And you're something. So what's everybody been up to? It's been, I guess, technically 2 weeks since.
Trying to finish this list.
Yeah, it's been.
Yep.
It has been, even for me, it has been a chore to figure out what my top 10 films of the year were. I didn't think it would be when we started getting ready for this, but it really kind
I
of has
hate my
been.
list.
Well, majority of the movies that I expected to be on my top 10 got pushed. So
I hate my
Yeah.
list only because none of these films, like there's like one or two I'm like, dude, you gotta see this, but there's nothing like I want to go out in the street with holding a sign saying I love this movie. Like last year there was at least 3. You know, you would be like, you haven't seen this movie? Sit down. What are you doing? You got 90 minutes? We're gonna watch this movie right now.
Mhm.
None of those are there.
So here's been my issue with it looking back on it. And it's something we've touched on a little bit in other episodes, and I've seen some other people in write-ups about 2020 talking about this too, is when you see something as an event, you know, when you go to the theater, you know, when you're with friends and you get popcorn and you sit down and watch it and it was amazing, you remember it, it sticks out. But we've watched so much stuff at home, a lot of times by ourselves, that to me, it's all just kind of washing together.
It's all blurring, yeah.
Even good stuff, even the good stuff, it's hard to remember a lot of it. What?
My top 2 movies were movies I saw in theaters. And I'm pretty sure that alone is what influenced a lot of their placement.
I'll be like, well, like I look at my list and the only thing I only saw one of them on my list in theaters, and everything else is on my list because I'm still thinking about them.
I think
Well, I mean, that's a good thing. If a movie sticks with you, sometimes even if it's so bad it sticks with me, I kind of like enjoy that to some degree as well.
3 of them in total on my list I saw in theaters. 1 I saw in a pseudo theater, and we'll get to that later.
I think I only saw 2 of mine in theaters. Now I have a number of like honorable mentions, like decent movies that I saw that were in theaters, but just didn't quite make the list. Yeah, definitely only 2 of these I've seen in theater this year.
I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 technically in a theater. Drive-in counts.
Now, one of my probably would be an honorable mention for me. No spoilers, Zach. Would probably be like Killer, like much higher in my list if I had been able to see it better.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm like, I know this is a good movie, but I can't see shit of what's going on right now, and we'll get to that.
I know.
I knew
Get
you
ready for
would.
that.
I
Get
knew
ready
you
for
would.
that.
Yeah, I know it's on your list. I already know. But that kind of spoils my list for Zach, but not for anybody else. Nathan asked me, and I didn't prop anybody up for this just to kind of see what reactions we get. Nathan asked me pre-show if we could, everybody could say what their worst movie of 2020 was.
Oh,
Yeah, that's easy.
yeah. I
Oh
can
yeah,
name
that's
two.
easy.
All right, go ahead, Zach. You're dying over there.
Okay, so I got two. One that was technically released in 2020, and one that went to streaming in 2020, but nobody saw it beforehand. So
Yep.
number two would be Artemis Fowl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Holy
Which is a
fuck,
fair.
it's bad.
It's a fair pick because that was supposed to be a theatrical release, and
Yeah.
it went to streaming. Yeah.
It is absolutely like it doesn't make sense, literally. And there are a lot of rumors going around that like over half the film is like reshot and re-edited, which makes sense, like given the total clusterfuck that it is. And my worst film that I've seen that like I question if it's a film is Veronica, which is a horror movie on Shudder that was brought to Shudder because it was so notoriously bad. And it okay, y'all have seen The Room, y'all have seen like Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Mm-hmm.
Those are very well competent, make sense films compared to this. This film,
Right.
there are scenes in this film where you see a monster, which is a guy in a suit,
Which I don't mind.
which is fine, but he has a big hole in his like crotch area, and it's not meant to be like his butthole or his where his dick is or anything. That's literally where like the suit opens up for the actor. And it's not like one or two shots like really quick. It's like 30 seconds. Very obvious. That is where the guy gets in his suit.
That's like a trauma movie.
Trauma is better quality than this.
All
Tina
right.
and Nico, what was your worst?
Ours
What-
is probably the same. Mine is Color Out of Space, starring Nicolas Cage.
Oh, you guys hated that
That
movie.
movie was absolute. I'm hardly ever one to like walk out of a theater, but I wanted to so bad.
I'm close there. I have to go with Wonder Woman. I have to because the reason I choose Wonder Woman 84 over Color Out of Space is just level of expectation that we had.
Yeah,
Like-
that's fair.
Like going into Color Out of Space, I wanted it to be good. It looked quirky enough, but I was way more disappointed in Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
I will
can-
say the reason Wonder Woman isn't my because it was me and Nico discussed this. It was a conversation of Color Out of Space or Wonder Woman.
Mhm.
The only reason Wonder Woman isn't my worst is I could actually follow the storyline.
fair enough.
That's fair.
I'm gonna go ahead and speak mine too because I'm right there with Nico. Mine is Wonder Woman, and I probably, if I sit down and catalog, I know I saw one movie that I think is the one Nathan is going to pick. I saw this one too, but it is literally the expectation and the fact that there's so much talent behind that movie. You've got two really good actors, or one really good actor and one pretty good actor, and a good director. It should have been a good movie. But it's just such a failure in that way. Color Out of Space going in, you knew you were taking a chance.
You knew it was Nick Cage.
Yeah,
It's
it's Nick
funny 'cause-
Cage.
I didn't hate Color Out of Space, but it's flawed as hell.
I couldn't watch Color Out of Space because I was so like turned off to Nicolas Cage offbeat stuff after Mandy because I fucking hated that movie. So I couldn't do it.
Nathan?
My number one worst was Underwater.
That would be my number two.
It was the first film I saw in theaters of 2020.
It set the tone for the year.
And
It did.
it really
It's your
did. And I walked in so excited, thought it was going to be good, came out pissed. Came out really pissed.
Okay, here's
Yeah.
where you went wrrong. Ready? Fuck
Don't
you,
tell me
it's
Kristen's
January.
Okay.
Well, yeah, January is a shot in the
Notoriously
dark, yeah.
famous for bad movies.
it is fuck you at January.
Fuck
Yeah.
you, it's January.
But also Kristen Stewart. I mean, Kristen Stewart, to be fair to her, has done some better movies. but she does better movies when she stays in the low budget indie area. And even then, like when you watch them, she's not the best thing in the movie, but the movie's still good. But when she does something that's a Hollywood movie, it's terrible. And I saw it, dude. I mean, she's not the only one that made that movie bad, though. T.J. Miller is terrible in it. And funny, right after making that movie, he got into trouble over drugs.
I was more disappointed with The Monster.
The Monster was awful.
Yep.
Yeah, it was bad. It was right there. But again, I went into that kind of expecting it to be bad, but I was using my Regal Plus card, so I was like, fuck it, whatever. All right, so should we save any honorable mentions till after the list, or we do them now?
I would just get right into the list, given the time.
I don't think I have any.
I have at least one, but Nico, why don't you go ahead and go with your number 10?
All right, my number 10 is Shirley, directed by Josephine Decker, starring Elizabeth Moss, Odessa Young, Michael Stuhlbarg. It's about Shirley Jackson, the writer who wrote like Haunting of Hill House. It's a fictionalized story of Shirley Jackson. This young woman comes to stay with, and her new husband come to stay with Shirley and her husband, and it becomes kind of like a surreal, like mind fucked onto that young woman, who because Shirley's a very eclectic, odd individual, and it's basically just another example of Elizabeth Moss being a fantastic actor. Anyone who just watches A Handmaid's Tale knows exactly what I'm talking about. Her intensity on screen. This one is definitely a new performance because she goes more all out with an accent and mannerisms that are much more different than what we're used to seeing. But she really nails that performance.
See, that was on my list, and not because of the story, and not, I mean, it was on my list of things I need to watch, but I didn't get to it. But because of
stuff to check out eventually.
Yeah, but because of her. I mean, it's to the point where if Elizabeth Moss is in it, it just
I want to watch it.
Yeah, because she's interesting. I like her because she's she comes off like a normal person to me. She's not like Gal Gadot. She doesn't
have that Hollywood beauty standard. She looks like somebody I could easily run into walking the street.
Mm-hmm. And I think it makes her easy to identify with.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then, so where did you see that one?
Hulu.
So what do you think put it this far, forced it this far down on your list? Is it because others are just better, or was there something?
I think the fact that I like the film, and I think it was just mostly that it does rest a lot on Elizabeth Moss. Like like everyone else does a fine job, a serviceable job, but I mean, she is the title character. So, but I think other than that, it is just kind of, I don't know. I could have gone back and forth with pretty much the bottom 5, and I'll probably find myself reordering them at any other time. But yeah, I think it's fine on my bottom 5 list.
Okay, cool. Tina?
All right. Well, going kind of in the same vein, my number 10 is The Invisible Man, another another Elizabeth Moss starred film. It also has Oliver Jackson Cohen, Harriet Dyer, directed by Lee Wannell. So it's basically a restructured telling of the classic Invisible Man, where the guy creates a serum or has an accident or whatever variation you grew up reading or watching, becomes invisible, starts doing stupid shit. But this time it's more so focusing on Elizabeth Moss' character leaving an abusive ex who's like this genius tech developer, and in the end, I love it so much. She becomes the Invisible Woman.
Spoilers.
So I just, well, this one came out early.
It's a great, entertaining film.
Fair warning to anyone watching this.
Yeah,
spoilers. Very likely.
For sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, spoiler alert. That was going to be one of my honorable mentions.
Mine too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That almost made my list.
It was really close because you know how we were talking about expectations of all the reasons Wonder Woman should have been good and it wasn't. This one has an equal number of things stacked against it to be bad. I mean, the director is not so good, you know. It's a Blumhouse movie, which right away 75% of what they do is not good. So going in, it's like this is gonna be a bad movie, and then watching it, it's
entertaining.
solid.
It was fun.
It's
Yeah.
solid.
Well,
to the last act.
Elizabeth Moss carries the movie. She carries the movie.
Which is why one of the reasons it's so far down is, it does rest a lot on Elizabeth Moss. There's quite a few scenes they could cut from it and it still tell the same story with the same impact. And honestly, because they set up for something that was going to be really, really good, but then they just decided not to follow through with it. So who knows if they'll revisit that later on, maybe in the next couple years. But yeah, I enjoyed it enough for it to make my list.
Yeah. So, I mean, my only real issue, I have no issue with having a movie sort of ride on the shoulders of the actor if that's the way it's intended to be. I mean, when you see Castaway, if anybody else had played that other than Tom Hanks, that movie
that movie rode so much on Wilson's shoulders.
It sure did. It sure did. I'm telling you. But yeah, I have no issue with that. What I had issue with is I feel like there's some issues with like who was it, his lawyer?
His lawyer /
brother.
There's some plot devices in there that I think just have no logical sense in the story, and that really bothered me. And there's some freaking terrible CGI in the last act. When all is revealed, you get a shot of like spoilers, the suit that he's in.
Mm-hmm.
That CGI looks like a cartoon. I'm like, this makes
some of the rain CGI is like, ooh, that could have been fine touched right there.
I mean, they did it better in Hollow Man.
Yeah,
did they though?
I don't know. I'd have to revisit that one.
Did Paul Verhoeven really do it 20 years ago?
Okay,
better.
They did.
All right, Nathan, why don't you tell us your number 10?
Invisible Man was my number 10 until last night. And so on HBO Max, a documentary called Transhood, and it follows the stories of 4 transgender children. And they filmed this over a 5-year span, and you get to see kind of the developments between their transition, what they're talking about and going through medically, as well as what's going on politically. So you're seeing the end of Obama's administration going into the Trump administration. And you're following these 4 kids. Basically, it ranges from age 5, the youngest one, to 17, the oldest one, making the transition. So 3 of these kids are identifying as female and one of them is identifying as male. And it was I think it's a topic, especially in the gay community, that's discussed a lot. And then when people from outside the community chime in and you think about transgender and they think you don't know your identity when you're a child. Well, I can sit here and say, I knew I was gay since I was like 7.
So how long does it follow?
It's over it's a 5-year span, and it cuts in between, but it follows through the documentary. It tells you what year it is. So you see them kind of grow into themselves.
And see, I appreciate sometimes, I feel like that sometimes when you are too embedded in your subject matter, you're not always the right one to tell those stories, because it's better if you have a curious fish out of water who comes in to learn. Now, if they come in with their own assumptions and just impart their own views on the story, well, that doesn't work.
Now, I'll tell you this. It's getting a lot of bad reviews, like Rotten Tomatoes scores, IMDb, it's low. It has a lot, but I feel a lot of that is social judgment rather than actually taking it for what it is.
It could be.
Yeah, there's a lot of 1 out of 10s. Like, out of 600 votes, over 200, nearly 300 are just 1 out of 10s.
It would be hard for me to believe that because critics are usually a pretty liberal-minded bunch.
I'm talking about audience score.
That's an audience, yeah. That's
That's
IMDb.
audience score. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't put any faith in that at all.
Yeah, but for me, it was something like, no, it has to go on my list because even all day today, even though I watched it last night, all day today, I've been thinking about it. I was thinking about certain things, and it's something I feel like I'm going to carry with me past just the next couple months. Like it's something I can reflect back on and really, I kind of identify with in a way, but
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Zach, you want to give us your number 10?
So my number 10 is a film I'm not even sure how I feel about it. Like really, I've watched this once and I'll be real, I didn't have a lot of movies to fill out this list. So instead of
Okay.
putting something that would normally go in like my worst of as a number 10, I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, what's a film I just put a question mark on? Maybe in a couple of years I'll revisit this and it'll be better. But for right now, I'm thinking of ending things. The newest Charlie Kaufman
I just
film.
couldn't bring myself to watch it. I started it and just didn't stay with it.
I came in.
It is a very interesting movie.
I came into
Nico
Tina
came
watching
in
it.
like 30 minutes after I started watching it, and he was like, "What? What?
Yeah,
What?"
it's very, very Charlie Kaufman. So it's kind of like, remember like when The Social Network came out and like the main titles aren't even done and the film's dialogue is already starting and it's like a car, like a treadmill, and if you're not ready for the treadmill, you're just gonna fall on your face. That's this film. It is literally this only like subtextual to where, did you see that book on that shelf? Well, later that's going to come into play, and this character that you saw for like one shot is actually later here, and this is subtextually all about this. So I'm not sure how I feel about it.
So my feeling
You
on
can
that
absolutely feel it's like directorially, this is Charlie Kaufman's vision.
it is.
Absolutely.
I feel like though it's kind of the lighthouse this year, where
Yeah.
it's so artsy that everybody wants to like love all over it, but it's honestly not that good.
I will say the dog part freaked me out. Like when the dog just keeps shaking his head, I'm like, "Ooh, stop!"
And it's interesting because this movie goes from like drama to thriller to almost horror and then back. And you're like, what the fuck is this?
I do find it funny that they couldn't get Dairy Queen on board because
Yeah.
in the book, like they say, name of it's Dairy Queen. That's why
Yeah.
you see the girls doing they turn it upside down because it was
Yeah.
supposed to be a Dairy Queen, but Dairy Queen was like, nah.
I
It's just too weird.
every actor in this is just absolutely acting their ass off. It's so dense that I have it as my number 10, which used to be like a guilty pleasure. And then last year it was like, I had so many good films on that list. And this year it's like, I need something to fill. Oh,
Yeah.
this movie. There you go.
So really quick before we move on, the one thing we usually start with that we didn't everybody,
Criteria.
yeah, just give me your criteria for choosing, other than I only saw 12 movies and I had to pick 10. I know that's part of your Zach. But Nico, what was your criteria for ordering your list and picking your films?
Ultimately, it's a mix of, did I have fun or a good time watching it, and then on some of the later ones, do I keep coming back to it, just like thinking about the movie, like does it keep entering my headspace as something to remember throughout the year, depending on how long ago it was I saw it. So it pretty much is like fun and revisiting in my mind.
Okay. Tina, what is your criteria?
Very similar. Did I have fun? Did I enjoy it? But I also take into account how it made me feel one way or the other, and how I would feel if I was the target audience. You'll hear more about that when I get to closer up top to my list. And then just, yeah, mostly, did I have fun? Would I watch this again? It boils down to, will I watch this again? So
Okay. Nathan?
A lot of my list is, have I seen it more than once throughout the year? will I see it more than once? Did I enjoy it? Did I walk away feeling like I got something out of it, like I can carry it and relate back to it, or like recommend it in general? Would I recommend these movies to anybody?
Okay. Zach, what's your criteria?
Mine is I would absolutely say that story is king, but outside of that, it has to be on a technical side, well crafted and made, edited, directed. Um, Acting I can kind of give a pass to most times, unless it's really bad. But it's also the
Okay, Dario Argento.
well, it's also like um, when my list gets like really on up there, uh, I should have the feeling of why didn't I think of this, or I could have shot this. That comes to mind like last year, One Cut of the Dead and like Climax. Those were two films. I'm like, damn it, why didn't I think of that?
Right.
Yeah.
I get
Where it's
that.
just that simple idea that you go, shit, why didn't I do this?
Mhm.
Sort of that thing. And my list sort of reflects that as well this year. But, honestly, this year I have a top 6 films with 4 honorable mentions. I did not. I think I saw 8 films in the theater this year. Usually, my criteria is theater only.
Mhm.
So fuck that this year.
So
yeah.
So instead of fuck you, it's January, it's fuck you, it's 2020.
Exactly.
Fuck you, it's forever.
So for me, mine is honestly somewhere between, usually where it is, somewhere between Nico and Zach. In that, sure, story is king. I agree with that. It has to be, usually the ones I pick in my top 10, I feel are the stories that I thought were most innovating for that year. The things I thought were just like, man. And it is still that to some degree. But also this year, because of the situation, is it just well written? Does it have 3 solid acts that work together and are compelling to me? Then after that, do I want to share it? Is it something I want to share with people? Have people watch again? And then beyond that, the technical. I can actually let some technical, like some cinematography and that stuff, kind of slide a little bit if I love the movie. If I just love the story or I liked a performance or whatever. But yeah, that's usually it for me. That's how it's working this year.
I'm the
A little
opposite
different
when
than
it comes
before.
to cinematography like that.
I
Like
know.
if Mulan was a great film, I would still be like, fuck me, this cinematography is awful.
But see, that's where like you're the DP and I'm the director.
Yeah. So I went to look at Nathan's face while you were saying like doing
where did
that
he go?
little, and I'm like, Nathan looks mad. Oh, that's his picture.
Right. Something happened with his video. Hopefully he's still with us. If anybody sees a text come in that needs a re-invite, let me know. So my number 10 is, I just want to pull up the IMDb so I can talk about it properly, because you'll see, it's complicated, this movie kind of. And it is The Trial of the Chicago 7. Did anybody else
saw that? I mean, I didn't see it, but I saw that.
It was on my list of get to, but I didn't.
So it's an Aaron Sorkin movie, which is really the reason I watched it, because I wanted to see, because I'm so hit or miss on Aaron Sorkin. Sometimes I really like him. And then sometimes I feel like his like directing feels stagey, like a play sometimes. This movie didn't feel that way. This movie felt like a movie, which was refreshing to me, but it still had his, sparkling sort of dialogue delivery and that kind of thing. Basically, it's a story of 7 people. I wanted to make sure I get the year right, who were accused of inciting a riot in the 1968 Democratic National Convention. How apropos is that?
Boy, that sounds a little
that's poetic right there.
Relevant, topical relevant one later in my list too. But yeah, I'm glad you said that one, because I forgot everything about that movie until you mentioned the title. I'm like, oh yeah,
so
something I wanted to see.
I feel like this is a movie that was made for theater and then bought by Netflix, because my big argument with a lot of Netflix films is they look like TV. When you watch this looks like an Aaron Sorkin, theatrical like experience. I mean, it's not like the most amazing cinematography, but it is a period piece, and the period piece stuff is well done. I mean, like if you compare it to say the Queen's Gambit is a good miniseries, but if you've got a keen eye, you can see where they cut corners to cover up their lack of budget for period stuff. All of a sudden there's no background, it's blown out. Well, okay, there's a reason. But this is well done. The costuming is great. It has Eddie Redmayne in it. He's great. Sacha Baron Cohen.
Mr. I Need a Cup of Water is actually good in it.
He's good in it. But Sacha Baron Cohen is, as always, is really surprising. Jeremy Strong is in it. I don't know. It's a good story. It is sort of topical. It's interesting to look back on something that's historical. Now, I had watched this previous to, current events, but boy, it really gives you some perspective about how we don't learn from our history in a lot of ways. So it's a good movie. I recommended it to me for somebody who's skeptical about Aaron Sorkin a lot of times. I thought this was really, really good. Much recommended. But it is still number 10 on my list. And some probably shittier movies are higher. Just saying. All right. Nico, you want to give us your number 9?
Number 9 is Gretel and Hansel.
That's my honorable mention too.
It's a horror movie version of the Grimm's Fairy Tale version of Hansel and Gretel. It's a really neat horror flick. It's a very slow burn, but it's not long. It's only about an hour and a half. Dark period piece. It's directed by Osgood Perkins, starring Sophia Lillis, Samuel Leakey, Alice Krieg. Sophia Lillis, who was young Beverly Marsh in the two It movies, did really good in this role. So, but so is the younger one too. The younger boy, the Hansel, Samuel Leakey. It's a good horror movie. I think it's a pretty solid, well executed horror film.
It had a great vibe throughout.
I really liked this movie. It almost made my list. It's because it's another movie that should have been bad. It didn't. The trailers
like January. It was like it was in "Fuck You, It's January," and I was like, "Oh God."
Well, I saw it because I was seeing everything.
I saw it because it was on my film ball list.
There you go. There's that too.
Back when we did film ball.
I'll be right back. So you guys go ahead and hopefully catch up at 8. But Tina's got my number 8 if you need it.
Okay.
I
was just going to add to that the thing of isn't it Alice Krieg that plays the Wicked Witch in that, kind of the witch or whatever she is? Isn't it? I swear it is.
I have a cat.
Alice Krieg. Yep.
Yeah, I like her in a horror villain kind of role. She's so good. She's so creepy, and that is the thing that was surprising about this movie is, and probably turned some people off. To be honest, is a slow burn. You go in kind of expecting a Blumhouse good time. It's not that.
That's what the trailers basically said.
Yeah. But no, you got to settle in.
But that slow burn was good, though.
It was It was a really good slow burn. It never even felt slow.
Yeah.
There's only one time, and I liked the sequence, but it did feel like it kind of drug a little bit. Is when they got like on the drugs or whatever when they were walking or whatever it was.
The mushrooms or whatever.
They kind of wigged out during that, and I get the point of what they were doing, but that part was a little chunky to me. But I mean, that's a minor complaint. I like that movie. That was a good choice. I was so close to making my list. It would technically be an honorable mention for me too.
Yeah, my honorable mentions have already been said, so good.
That's hilarious. Tina, what is your number 9?
All right, well, my number 9, I'm really sad Nico's not here for this because I wouldn't have had this movie on my list if not for him. I came in like 15 minutes, 30 minutes after he had started it. But it's a movie called Uncle Frank, starring Paul Bettany, again, Sophia Lillis, Peter Macdissi. Basically, it's a family drama and a comedy where this teenage girl, Beth, decides to go live in New York City and be with her favorite uncle. It's in like 1970s or something like that. And her favorite uncle is gay, and they're from like South Carolina, like the South kind of deal. They head back home because the family's patriarch dies. Uncle Frank's dad dies. He's just so like you get flashbacks to the dad where he's just bigot, like a good old country boy, abusive, yelling at his kids, all that stuff. But who joins them on their trip home is Uncle Frank's longtime live-in boyfriend, Wally. And it's just a great telling of this, story where it's definitely about family, but also about other relationships outside of your family. And not all family relationships are healthy or good, and that's okay. It was beautifully shot. They did a really good job capturing the atmosphere of like the 1970s. Um, it was just it was a really good movie. I enjoyed it.
So where did you guys see it? Where's that showing?
Amazon. It was on Amazon.
See, this is the thing. This is the problem with all the streaming services is when they do get something good like that, is it just disappears into the ether. I have heard nothing about this.
Like I've heard all about Steve McQueen's series. What's it called? Like something Saw?
Stephen Root plays the patriarch who dies.
Oh.
So it was fun seeing him in a role again.
Yeah, it's like I've heard all about like over the past 2 days how Steve McQueen's series on Amazon Prime is like incredible. I've had no advertisements for it, and it just got lost.
Yeah, it's crazy. If A Marriage Story hadn't been nominated for an Oscar, no one would know about that movie.
Completely missed it.
Yeah.
This is why I hate streaming movies.
Exactly.
They just go into the ether. Speaking of which, please buy Family of Fear on DVD today.
Yeah. Which, side note, did you guys see that I posted the St. Maud thing? Is that movie's finally coming out?
Finally.
No.
Too bad our drive-in theater is going to be closed until March.
Yeah, you know, who's probably going to get that, right? Of course.
Oh shit.
Yeah. All right. So
I need that vaccine.
Right, you do. Nathan, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is Freaky, the Blumhouse movie.
I want to see that movie.
I paid the $20 to see it.
I won't do it. I won't. You did that a bunch of times, you bastard.
I did that for 2 things, and then for another thing I bought off Redbox.
Yeah.
But anyways, Freaky, starring Vince Vaughn and Catherine Newton, and it's basically Freaky Friday, but with like a serial killer element to it. Vince Vaughn plays a serial killer called the Butcher, and Catherine Newton is this high school girl. And when he goes to kill her, basically they swap bodies for 24 hours, and it is just so much fun and so much more bloody than I expected it to be. But it was so good. It was so good.
Well, that's the one that's directed by the same guy that did
Happy Death Day.
Happy Death Day.
And it has the Happy Death Day feel to it. Like the comedy horror aspect is really, really good. And Vince Vaughn, like, he has a tendency of playing the same character over and over and over again in all of his movies. He has some of that in this, but he definitely brought some new elements of his acting, and it was great.
Well, and see, when we first started talking about this, Zach was like, no. But I keep hearing that Vince Vaughn is like doing some of his best work in this movie.
There is one scene, and I know I'll spoil. Well, you guys haven't seen it. You guys are going to see it. It's great. There's a car scene, and it has to do with making out, and Vince Vaughn.
That's how you know when it's a good movie, when you don't want to spoil it.
I don't want to pull a Zach.
What's the girl's name again? The girl
Catherine
actress?
Newton.
Is she good?
She is so good.
Because she's taking somebody else's role in the MCU. She's taking Ant-Man's daughter.
She is really good, and she does a great flip of character as well. Like it's wonderful.
Okay. All right. I'll see it. I mean, it was definitely on my list of to see.
It was worth every freaking penny.
Yeah, I just can't. I can't do it. I wanted to for a few films, maybe another one that's on your list possibly, but I just $20. That's a lot. It's a lot to watch it at home.
It's great.
All right, Zach, what's your number 9?
So my number 9 is one I actually saw like the other week. I was just on HBO Max. It was like, sure, fuck it, let's just put this on. I haven't seen this yet. It's The Invisible Man.
What? What?
Hold on, you gave us major shit for watching this movie.
You sure did.
What?
You sat there and was like, oh, really?
You were like, that's a Blumhouse film. That's gonna suck.
That
Yeah,
looks like
months ago.
garbage.
Months ago.
Yet it's on your list.
But I was as surprised as you are. Because I'm like, this is actually a pretty nice little thriller.
Gosh.
Well, and we tried to tell you that it is. It's
The
not
only
bad.
thing that absolutely pissed me off while watching it, I was watching it going, I need to see this in a theater. Like,
Yeah.
for the paying attention, because like, you know, when you're at home, you have so many distractions, and the sound design, how quiet it is, how it would play differently with an
the
audience.
sound design in that movie in the theater was a different experience.
It's you know, even in 5.1, I'm like, this needs to be more precise.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a good theatrical experience.
It's definitely
Nico
got
and I
problems.
watched it early on in our quarantine days, and I was like, man, I really kind of wish we'd seen that in theaters when we had the chance.
And at that point, we didn't have a pup to keep distracting us either.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that. So, Zach, do you see the issue that I'm talking about with the movie in regards to the brother?
Yeah, he just comes right the fuck out of nowhere and is like, haha, I'm going to help out.
Well, and he seems to have a superpower in regards to getting her out of jail or whatever.
I like Zach is a very Bond-esque villain at this point.
Yeah, it turns into a Bond villain. That's true.
I mean, yeah, like I said, it has issues, but it also has like 2 or 3 really good scares in it. And for a Blumhouse movie to have like a good scare, like, boy, write down the date. It's gonna be a while. Where's Mike with his book? But yeah, you know,
It's really
it was
funny.
enjoyable.
That in our pre-show, Zach's like, man, I miss talking about movies. But his own list, he barely has anything to say.
I don't have anything to say until like we get to number 6, because like I said, I have a top 6 with a couple honorable mentions.
It's already
Okay.
almost 9. So
And
let's
we
go
also
on to your
talked
number
about
9.
this
All
one.
right.
So
Steven?
my next one is one when I saw this movie, I think I sent a text out to everybody and I said, you need to go to Hulu and watch this movie. It's
Damn it, I
better
missed this one.
than I thought it was going to be. And it's called Run. And it's directed, I'm going to try it, Anish, no, I can't get that last name. Chaganty. I don't know. What do you guys think that's pronounced? It stars Sarah Paulson and Kira Allen. And the thing that's great is this is a lower budget film, but man, it really uses its budget well. So Allen plays a teenager who has a lot of physical issues. She's in a wheelchair. Tina, this was right up your alley in a lot of ways.
I wanted to watch it, but we just ran out of time.
Yeah. And her mother, is taking care of her. Well, suddenly she starts to figure out maybe my mom isn't taking care of me. Maybe she's doing something else. Maybe she's causing what's happening to me.
Yeah, it had a very much a Gypsy Rose and Dee Dee Blanchard feel to it, which is why I wanted to watch it so bad.
It has that, but it also very much, for me, even more, I was like, holy shit, this is Misery done well. I mean, Misery is a fine movie. Misery is good. But in that kind of storytelling, I think they actually execute the thriller aspects of it better because it's fast-paced for the most part. It's claustrophobic. That's the word I'm looking for.
Well, and there was layers of story there too, especially with Sarah Paulson's character.
Yeah, you get a lot out of Sarah Paulson. She's such a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people sleep on her, and it's a shame.
Well, they do. A lot of like critics and audience sleep on her, but she gets all kinds of, cool roles. Although I hear that Ratchet show is terrible, Nurse Ratchet or whatever it is.
See, I hear great things about Nurse Ratchet.
I hear it's style over substance is what I keep hearing, but I'm sure she's
AJ,
fine.
how is Ratchet?
What did she say?
She didn't say anything.
All
I
right.
watched it though.
Anyway, you guys need to take the time. And just sit down and give this a go because it's a lot of fun and it's over before you know it. It's fast and short.
You
And
say that, but do you have a puppy who is a demon?
How
I
is
don't.
We
Ratchet?
do.
I don't, but I have a bladder that forces me to the bathroom every
Sure.
hour.
It was definitely on our list because Tina and I went through movies we need to see and runtimes to
Casey
see
liked
what
it.
worked best.
Okay. So it was
Darn,
simply
once again.
it was
Zach.
Zach,
you're blowing our conversation here.
mute your mic, Zach.
Yeah. So literally it was just a fact of you guys just not getting around to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you should definitely take the time to see it. If
'Cause-
you're just looking for something fun to watch together on Saturday night.
Normally we would have probably had the time even with the puppy, but things are happening this weekend that kind of drained our time.
Some things are happening. Some things are happening.
Although oddly enough, this Saturday we might have time to do that. Okay.
So check it out. And according to KJ, Ratchet is worth a watch.
All right.
She also thought it came out like last year.
No.
No, earlier this
Te-
year.
Actually, no. Technically, it did come out last year.
Technically, yeah, she's correct.
Okay, like 2019, because she's
Yeah.
like, they came out like a year and a half ago.
It feels like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it was like
All right.
3 months ago.
Nico, what is your next pick?
Number 8 is Palm Springs, directed by Max Barbacow, starring Andy Samberg, Kristen Milotti, and J.K. Simmons. It's basically a romantic comedy version of Groundhog's Day, which in already,
itself is
already a bit of romantic comedy. But this time, basically, instead of the love interest pulling our main character out of their repeated time loop, she falls into the same time loop. So they are now basically being looped together and having to deal with that. And I think Sandberg and Melody have excellent chemistry. They're really good together on screen. And then J.K. Simmons is a supporting role as kind of an antagonist is also a lot of fun. I like the rules it sets up for itself on how the Groundhog Day event basically happened. So that's really neat. But also, like, just in terms of acting, I'm super impressed with all of the supporting cast because they do the loop a lot. So you have all of these people doing the same thing over and over and over again. And
it's easy for a performance to feel stilted at that point.
Yeah, they hit it beat for beat. Like it feels like they did a really good job nailing that repetition.
See, I've heard such good things about this movie. And it's won some awards in the festival circuit and that kind of thing. I think I just rebelliously rejected it because I'm just so tired. I think Happy Death Day was the last one of the Groundhog Day riffs that I want to see. And I'm sure it sounds like you guys really liked it. It's a really good movie.
Just wait.
That formula.
You will see it again.
That formula just kind of stepped off on it.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I got to give it a chance. It's on Hulu, right? Yep. All right. Tina?
I am prepared to take some fire for this one. Bring it. My number 8 is Sonic the motherfucking Hedgehog.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say something actually controversial.
Yeah. Don't worry, Tina. It's going to be here later.
No, I mean, Nico and I, we already agreed that we'd go to see it. This is one of the ones we saw in theaters, but we already said we'd go to see it, especially after the whole effects redo that they did. And we wanted to support that because they listened to the fans. They were able to say, yeah, that's kind of weird. And it was so much fun. Jim Carrey makes Sonic is voiced by Ben Schwartz. You'll know him as Jean-Ralphio from Parks and Rec. James Marsden plays the insert character here to help tell the story. Jim Carrey plays Egghead Dr. Egghead, and it's fantastic. And he steals the show every scene he is in. And of course, Jim Carrey is like a master of improv and just going by the seat of his pants. There are some hilarious moments that you find out later just were not scripted at all. And it's so much better that way. I had such a blast for this.
It's for me, it's not top 10 worthy, but I enjoyed the film when I saw it. I didn't think it was going to be good at all, and I had a good time.
I almost cried at the after credits scene because I was like, yes.
Well,
My geekiness.
Yeah,
through.
I mean, I guess maybe I cut it more slack than I normally would too, because I always feel like we had this discussion about Disney the other day, remember? And I was like, well, I'm on the outside because I'm more of a Hanna-Barbera guy. I never cared for Disney that much. Well, I was always a Sega guy. I liked Sonic the Hedgehog when everybody else was playing Mario Brothers. So I love that this thing exists, and that post-credits scene that you're talking about is, for people who love Sonic, is really cool.
And I have to say, I admire the actual, like, the story part, because they actually give it some thought. It's not just here's this random story. It has some meat to it, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that they put that much thought into what could have easily just been, here's this kid movie, or here's this movie that we're just banking on the nostalgia bomb for. No, it had some meat to it.
Okay. I mean, did anybody else see it? All
Nope.
right. Just us three. That's fine. It's fun. It's worth your time. It's a fun little watch. I mean,
Yeah.
I respect that it's on your list, even though it didn't make mine. Oh, spoilers. All right, Nathan, what's next for you?
My number 8 was Run. Thank you, Steven, for the recommendation.
So good.
Everything Steven said about the film, I will say what really made it for me was the girl who played the daughter, last name Allen. She was phenomenal. The tension and the suspense that you get, it grows and grows and grows. There's like 3 standout tense scenes that, and especially the hospital scene where you're just like, oh Lord. But there's some great movie stuff there. It's definitely not a theater worthy movie, but it's great.
I when you start talking about theater, on my Regal card, I would have been happy that I saw it and I would have enjoyed it. I don't know. I was going to agree with you, but now that I think about it, if I was in there with an audience, that tenseness probably would have felt pretty cool in an audience. And remember, we were talking about it, and that the girl that plays the teenager, that was her first feature film, and she's fantastic in it. I
mean, she plays symptoms up very well.
She did a good job. Yes. So you guys need to see that. All right, Zach.
All right. Well, my number 8 is a very interesting film called VHS, which is
a porno.
Not entirely, but it's basically like in the 80s, this 12-year-old kid gets a VHS camcorder, whereupon he tapes over accidentally his parents' wedding tape. So it's him playing with a camera, and then he'll hook the camera up to his TV as he's flipping through the channels, and you can see what's on. In the middle of the night.
I remember this movie.
Yeah, and it's got this grand overarching plot that the first time you're watching it, you're like, well, why isn't there more TV stuff? And then the second time I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing here. It's actually really funny and enjoyable. And it's also really short, it only being like 72 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Check this one out on Hulu. It is pretty fantastic for a comedy, and you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. So
I question. I have a question mark only because Zach's choices in comedy.
My choice in comedy is weird. The weirder the comedy, like the stranger, just like Tim and Eric, it goes, the more I love it. So if you're a fan of Tim and Eric, there you go. There's like, this section where this lady, was on TV and she's like, we got our lucky bones and hair in our drawer, and now I'm going to stare at you until you fall asleep.
Okay.
And she just stares for like a solid minute.
Context is important.
and it goes from like funny to not funny, and then back to
Well,
funny.
Okay, I kind of like that. If you can do tonal jumps in a good way, I like that. I can enjoy that.
Yeah, I recommend.
I'll look at it. I'll
Really
look at it.
short. Yeah.
Well, I'm
I
really
mean,
more apt to look at it
got-
now that you say how short it is.
I mean, it's got goddamn like Susan Sarandon and what's his name from Shawshank Redemption, Tim Robbins.
Oh wow!
Is in this bitch.
All
Like,
right.
out of nowhere, it's like, holy shit, it's Susan Sarandon. What the fuck is she doing in this?
She got nothing to do.
What happened was, I think this was a Kickstarter movie. So she was one of the backers or executive producers or something like that.
Huh. All right.
But shot entirely on VHS and beta. So it actually is a VHS movie shot on VHS. I'm looking at you, VHS, where you
Right.
shot on tape.
So
Don't
does that
think
mean
so.
it literally is in 360 resolution or whatever that VHS
Yeah.
was?
I mean, it is clean. Like you can
Yeah.
tell some of the beta sequences. It's like this almost looks a little too clean.
Nico, we
Um,
can't hear you.
What?
Nico
I'm
was
watching
trying to
the-
say something.
No. Thank you. I'm watching the trailer a little bit here, and one of the pull quotes on it is Charlie Kaufman-esque, and I'm like, that makes sense given.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it says a lot about Zach's list.
It does.
Yeah. But I will say there was another movie I saw this year called like it was on Shudder. It was like the something Halloween special. That looked like legitimate VHS tape footage than this movie. So while it is shot on VHS and beta, it doesn't entirely look like it should. It needs like one more round of damage or whatever to it.
Okay.
If anybody remembers what true VHS looks like anymore,
I remember vaguely.
Taping porn off of your off your parents' tape deck, just like, oh shit.
Oh shit is right. All right.
I never had to do that. I had the internet, so.
You something. All right. So my next one, this one is different. My next film is called Nomadland.
How the fuck did you see this?
I got a screener.
You bastard.
I got a
And
screener.
you didn't share.
You didn't tell me, or you asshole.
I told you the other day that I'm going to have maybe that was Nathan. I said I'm going to have a couple on my list that are going to make people mad.
Mm-hmm. You told me that, and I was
So
like, okay, it won't make me mad, so you're good.
It stars Frances McDormand, and let me just read this to you. After losing everything in the Great Recession, a woman embarks on a journey through the American West, living in a van, dwelling as a modern day nomad. Okay, good. Because really all I could tell you about this movie after watching it is that it's straight up a character study. There's not a lot of like beginning, middle, and end kind of traditional storytelling. This is more of a character study. But what's fascinating is you've got this like Oscar caliber actress, and the nomads that she's interacting with throughout the film are just fucking nomads that they feed them lines. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes their stuff is improv. She's just sort of existing along with them.
I like how I'm looking at the IMDb page, and one, its public release date is until this February. So there's that. But yeah, all the actor lists are like they got the real names for all the people to clear them, and their cast name is like Gay DeForest, Gay, Patricia Greer, Patty, Linda May, Linda, Angela Reyes, Angela, Carl. It's like they are themselves.
So wait, so it actually didn't fully get released until February?
No,
Uh,
I was
well,
like, how the
cheater.
hell did you
Because
see it?
then I did cheat because I saw it showing at some theaters. So I thought, okay, we're good.
It probably doesn't get a wide release until February. I mean, I would say if you got to see the full film, then fine. Put it on the
It's
list.
been on
I
a
just
lot.
know previous years we focused on wide release.
It's
Yeah,
been
no,
in
you're right.
film festivals. Yeah, it's been a lot of film
Well,
festivals.
then
So
February, which is not far away, you've got to make some time to see this movie because it's one of those movies that's kind of just like crawls all over you. You're just kind of watching it, existing in it, and then you can't stop looking at it. It's so good. She's amazing in it, and you'll be surprised how good some of the nomads are, some of the people, and it's like it's one part documentary because you learn about their lives, and then there is a light narrative that runs through it that's just so good, really good.
So,
And I'm glad it's this far down on my list because technically it didn't come out till this year.
so the same director as this movie
Mhm.
is doing Eternals
Oh,
from Marvel.
That's very interesting.
That is
Because
weird, man.
it is weird. It is weird because most of the time this movie to me looks more like a documentary than any kind of big cinematic masterpiece. And you know, with it not being a spoiler, just kind of a heads up, this movie just ends. It just stops. It just stops. Don't be looking for something more than that. And it's beautiful. I love it.
All right.
All right, Nico.
all right. We are on number seven now.
Yep.
Soul, the Pixar movie, directed by Dana Murray, Jamie Foxx, Tina Fey, Graham Norton. It's the second Pixar movie of the year. I like its ultimate message of not getting wrapped up in something so much that you basically miss out on your life, and the fixation that it tries to warn against. I think hits pretty well, and without being so heavy-handed that you feel like you're choking on it through the whole movie. I like the performances. I like Jamie Foxx. I think does a really good job. I laughed a good bit in it. It's beautifully animated. That we've talked about it when we talked about the movie. The piano work looks amazing. So yeah, we talked about that like a couple weeks ago.
Graham Norton's funny. Tina Fey's funny.
Yep,
It's him. Yeah.
that's it.
All right, cool. No one's saying anything because we may have to hear about it again. So let's move on to Tina.
My number 7 is one I don't have to worry about any of you asking what's that about, because we all saw it together during our 12 hours of terror, called Possessor Uncut. Now, granted,
I just saw multiple people look at the camera at the same time.
You'll see
granted-
that on my list later.
Who knows?
It's like-
Who knows?
Who
we
knows?
watched it at like 5 in the morning.
No, it was like 7:30.
It was really early in the
Rained
morning.
of
There was
absolute
daylight at that point.
everything. Like half of us were still falling asleep, but it was, man, this was a ride. This was a fun ride. For those
And
who
you
don't
still
know,
think about it, right?
I do.
Yep.
Like, I still get that scene where Sean Bean's getting beat up, and I'm just like, ooh, ooh. They went there. Basically, it's an agent who works for this organization, this like super top secret organization. They have like brain implants to like hijack people's bodies, and they use that technology to do like assassinations, and an assassination goes wrong. It stars let me see, Andrea Riseborough, Christopher Abbott, Jennifer Jason Lee. Director is Brandon Cronenberg. It was just an amazing, like the scenes, the scene work, the lighting. Like, this was a beautifully made movie, I feel. So
It was great. Yeah. We'll talk about that later.
Oh yeah.
it's a good follow-up after Black Sheep.
That was a good
Yeah.
time. All right, Nathan.
My number 7 is a documentary on Netflix called Blackpink Light Up the Sky. It is about a K-pop girl group.
Okay.
And I have never seen the draw into K-pop music until I watched this documentary. And now my iTunes music essentials is BTS and Blackpink.
Girl,
And
check out Red Velvet. I'm just saying.
I might check that out. But the documentary is great because it talks about the group as a whole, but it breaks down each individual person in the group. But it also talks about how K-pop groups are kind of formed. It is a full like training academy, and they literally are not afraid to like cut you. It's like ballet, like a ballet school, but for forming pop groups. And that's how these groups are formed. They don't know each other. They're individuals. And they go through like these intense training classes until they meld into a group or an artist, and then they're just thrown out there. That's why there's so many revolving. but Blackpink was been around for a few years now, and their music is pretty good. And I didn't really realize how big they were. They're on Lady Gaga's new album Chromatica for Sour
That's how
Candy.
you.
And like I was like, I know
They're
this
also
name.
on the back of my car as a bumper sticker.
They are amazing. They are amazing. It follows this journey in the documentary where they got to perform at Coachella, which is huge for a K-pop group. Which is also funny. Why do we call it K-pop? And they address this in the documentary. Like, it's weird they call it K-pop when it's just pop music. We don't call it American pop. We don't call it British pop.
A-pop.
Yeah. So
I think it's because they have a very specific style, and not just
that
music, but the look, and their approach is so different. Like, you can look at British pop music and American pop music, and they're real similar in a lot of ways. They're all R&B or soul based music.
Yeah.
K-pop is different.
Yeah, not only that, but the music scene in a lot of Asian countries, Japan and Korea especially, they are as entrenched in their own music, or as entrenched in English music as they are in their native language music. So it's a way to differentiate themselves from English. It's a way to tell Twice from Katy Perry.
Well, and I will also say this Blackpink group, they're 4 girls from very different parts of the world. Like, they're not all Korean. Some are Thai, one's from Australia, or 2 are from Korea, I believe. They're amazing. Like, watching this story, and literally it's playing on my TV right now, just muted, like on repeat.
Oh my God. All right, Zach, what's your next one?
So my number 7 is a little Japanese anime called Weathering with You.
I hear so many good things about this.
Yeah, that's on my to watch list.
This is the follow-up to Your Name. Shinkai, what's his name? Makoto Shinkai?
Makoto Shinkai.
Yeah. This is follow-up to Your Name, which, spoiler, it's not as good as Your Name. So that should kind of tell you everything there, your expectations going in. But this is a nice sort of love story kind of tale about a guy who has a run-in with this girl who can manipulate the weather. And of course it features just the stunning animation that this guy, is able to create with his studio, I guess. With a story that is really kind of sweet, and I did not expect it to go the way it did. Similar to Your Name, I guess, going into Your Name, basically knowing nothing, and then, the twist happens 45 minutes in, you go, what the hell is going on? But this is a really nice, kind of lovely film if you're looking for something to watch to feel comfy. It's comfy programming. Again, like I said,
you need to have seen the first one.
Your Name is its own thing.
Yeah, they're different films.
It's kind of like saying, it's the same director, only that was his first film. This is the second film.
Cool.
So, I mean, basically, a lot of the I should see this was because it's from the director of Your Name.
Got it.
Which, if you haven't seen Your Name, check that out. It's really great.
All right.
It made my heart ache for a minute.
Well, good. It made you human for a minute.
Rare that is.
I do. I've known you for a long time.
Everybody else is crying in the theater. I'm just like,
oh yeah, I've seen that for a bunch of times. Me and you might go to a movie and his whole shirt is wet from crying, and you're like, what?
No.
I mean, I'm kind of on Zach's level here. I still get people being like, "How could you?" when I tell them I didn't cry at all for Up. So.
Oh, you bad.
No.
What the fuck is
you
wrong
bad.
with you?
You bad. Yeah. I cried.
I cried.
All right,
I
so
still cry.
right. I'm about to cry thinking about it. So my number 7, get ready. If you choose to watch this movie, it is an endurance test.
Oh boy.
It is almost 5 hours long. It's called City Hall. It is a documentary directed by a documentary filmmaker that I love, and he only does stuff It's very seldom. His name is Frederick Wiseman. He does a very specific type of documentary that a lot of filmmakers won't even touch. The closest thing you might have seen to his style is the Apollo 11.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't do interviews at all. Nothing. He sets up his cameras and just shoots shit until stuff happens. So basically what City Hall is about is a documentary about the ground level government process in Boston, the city government. And I started it because I love Frederick Wiseman. He did a movie many years ago called Store, where he just set cameras up in a Macy's
Yeah, I
and
remember
followed
hearing
them.
about that.
Yeah, he follows them all the way through preparing for the first day of Christmas season. And it's riveting, and I wanted to do a movie like that for so many years. So when I heard this was coming out, you could see it on streaming. It's streaming on the PBS streaming app, if you didn't know they had one. So it's nearly 5 hours long. It's not a miniseries. It's a single shot. You just watch it. And it's interesting because you start out and it's like, oh, this is like the crap you see on C-SPAN when they're doing those like committee meetings or whatever. But you start to sort of soak into it because it shows different battles happening in the city and how they impact each other. Like there's a battle going on in the city for affordable housing. And then the other side, they show another part of government that's dealing with the housing growth and the sheer numbers of people, just like Nashville, that are moving into the city looking to buy houses. They even follow government employees out to those houses as they get inspected. So you see every level of the process. You really learn something about the struggle of getting something done in city government, even when people all have the right want to do it. You know, it's refreshing to see people that want to do right for people in the 2020, 2021. But they really all have like good goals, but sometimes they conflict completely because they're on different sides of the same coin. And then there's a whole social justice element, and then there's dealing with climate, trying to do some climate change things in Boston. It like the first 30 minutes, I'm like, I don't know. But by the end of the first hour, I'm like, okay, I'm with it. I want to see how this shit gets worked out. And some of it you do actually get to see somewhat of a conclusion to. You know, there's never an end to city government, but some of the stories you do get a culmination to. It's real good. And like I said, it is not, there's some beautifully shot sequences in it. He does take time to do some really great cinematography, but there's no interviews. There's a little bit of text when it's needed. It just happens, and you just got to sit there and be in the room with these people. Like, watch that shit. It's good. I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was, but man, you got to see it. It's really good.
Adding to my list.
Yeah, and it's free to watch on the PBS app. Now, I'll tell you, if you're going to watch it, you got to do it soon because I think it said available through mid-February, and then it goes away. So you got to see it reasonably soon. And yeah, that's it. Nico, what is your number 6?
My number 6 is Uncle Frank. It is Tina had that already on the list, so don't have to go too much into like the who's in it and all that. But Paul Bettany does an excellent performance with the struggle that he's going through as this closeted closeted to his family, pretty much out and open to Greenwich Village, New York, where he teaches, and the struggle of having to go back home, dealing with his family who doesn't know, dealing with the trauma and abuse that he suffered from his father, and also the trauma and abuse that he has as an alcoholic, and indulging himself in that in this very stressful time. And then his husband, played by Peter Macdissi, does an excellent job as well. Sophia Lillis is in this again. It's the second movie that she's in on my list. Yeah, I think it's a good movie.
Cool. Gonna have to check it out. You said Hulu, right?
That's on Amazon.
Amazon.
It's
Amazon. That's right, Amazon.
Amazon original.
Oh, nice. All right, Tina, what's your next one?
Mine is another Sophia Lillis movie that has been discussed. Gretel and Hansel. I really, really was fascinated with this movie. As we've discussed already, it's a slow burn. It's not so much there's not really many pop scares. It's more atmospheric kind of tension.
I don't remember any pop scares.
Yeah. And the atmosphere is what gets you. The complete like immersion in the setting from the get-go. Just something's wrong. Something's just not right with the society, with the world. And just the attention to detail that they go out throughout the movie, like the food, the food that lures the children in, and then you start to suspect something's up with that, and it's not until later in the film that you're like, yeah, I see what they're doing. But I have to say, one of my favorite details, and it's a small detail, but the how to tell the way that she's becoming a witch is like the fingers just start going black, and that was just so beautifully done that I still like I imagine that now, just on like characters that I'm wanting to create myself. It's just the atmosphere made it as high on the list as what it is, and the acting, especially from the little boy Samuel Leakey, did a really good job as Hansel, for as young as he is, just keeping up with Sophia Lillis and Alice. How do you say it?
Krieg.
And Jessica DeGao was also like they split the role.
Alice Krieg, famously Borg Queen.
Yeah. But it was just it was so good.
It's really good. It's like, to me, it really is like a Grimm's fairy tale. Like, this is how dark you imagine the real fairy tale probably is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Hey, Nathan?
All right, my number 6 is Greenland, and it is the natural disaster movie starring Gerard Butler, Marina Baccarin, Roger Dale Floyd. It's just a natural disaster meteor movie, and it is so good. It is so if one movie I wish I could have seen in the theaters, it would have been this one, Greenland. It's a great.
Funny because the trailers for this movie did not look good. But it did look like a Nathan movie because you love the disasters. You guys don't understand.
Nah, me and Nathan loved the destruction.
Well, this bitch right here went on about a week-long tear of watching
Twister,
Deep Impact, Twister, all of it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't
San
surprised.
Andreas.
When you watch this, I wasn't surprised.
Day After Tomorrow, 20.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie in his wheelhouse.
The word on this is not that it's pretty good, though. I've been seeing in other places, too, that really, it's not bad.
So, like, he did Geostorm, like, a couple years, and that was just a crap disaster movie. Mm-hmm. This is actually like, oh, okay. Like, this is up there with, what was that? Armageddon. It's up there along those lines as disaster type thing. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
Wait, this is as good as Armageddon?
To me, it is.
So why couldn't they just like train like astronauts to be drillers?
Well, as long as nobody was bouncing a cookie off somebody's belly.
Because if you look at the story, it was supposed to be something that goes over Earth and then it impacts.
I'm sorry, the correct answer was shut the fuck up.
Mm. Yeah, that's probably what you should have told
Because that's what Michael Bay said when Ben Affleck asked that.
So Nathan tried to get me to watch it. He's like, you need to watch it. And I was gonna go and look at it just because he recommended it or whatever. But it was another $20 movie. And I'm like, no. And he even hit me with, you could go to the Bay. But Zach and I have made an agreement on these top 10s to try and not do that.
Be it legitimate.
It would have to, for me to go
to be
to
a
the
legitimate.
Bay, for me to go to the Bay would literally be, it is being heralded as like the best film of the year.
And you cannot access it anywhere.
Yeah, there's no way to access it. It is not getting a theatrical release.
Well, and the other thing for me is getting stuff from the Bay.
Thing.
You end up with cams and stuff, and I'm not going to watch a movie for the first time on a cam.
Cams are over, really. It's just...
No, you'll get the cell phone video. You'll get the cell phone shot, yeah. But It's a great movie. I highly, highly recommend it. Like
I mean, even if it were like a shittier one, I would probably still watch it for the fun. So I'll see it. I just after it's free on streaming, I'll see it.
Some days I just need to get drunk and just watch a building collapse.
Yeah, I see that.
That's what I need.
I get that. All right, Zach. What you got?
All right. So now we actually start my top 10 here. Number 6, I got Soul, the new Pixar joint. After
you don't have soul, Zach.
That's true.
You really don't.
I've seen you dance. I've seen you dance.
I used to have a soul, at least. I think. But this is the second Pixar film this year, and it's the not shit one. So automatically, there we go.
Onward was not
Onward
terrible.
was a giant piece
Onward was
of
not
shit.
terrible.
Oh, that's terrible. I hated it.
I mean, Pixar need to scrape their fucking logo off that movie. Holy fuck, it was bad.
No.
And I didn't have to pay $20 for that, and I still was like, wow, what a fucking piece of shit. Anyway, so this movie, of course, we already talked about it earlier, but
and we'll talk about it again.
Yeah, we'll talk about it again. This does have issues with it in regards to its own continuity, especially with
Why don't you save it, because we know we're going to talk about it again.
But can we just talk about how good like the animation is compared to the Onward? Can we talk about that? Can we talk about
Dude,
how
the
you can
hands
see the
on the piano.
reflections on the mouthpieces of the instruments of the room?
Mhm.
Onward didn't have any of that shit because it went to the fucking B team. A team right here, baby.
Listen, Terry.
All right.
I hate that I'm that character. KJ was like, "That's you," and I'm like, "Son of a bitch, that's me."
Yes, it is. Yeah.
All right. So I think this one is probably the other one in my list that's going to make somebody mad, if not more than one person mad. And I won't lie. I went out seeking this movie. I hit every PR contact I had until somebody had a screener for me because I wanted to see it because I was hearing so many good things. And it is a Promising Young Woman.
Oh, fuck you.
Damn it, I wanted to see this. Fuck
Yeah.
you.
So
Well, you were right.
yeah, I guess I had a feeling. So it's directed by Emerald Fennell or Fennell.
Hey Zach, I got all these movies for screeners. You want to come over and see them? Nah, fuck him.
Hey, Tina, you've been talking about this movie for like half a year. Do you want to, I don't know, maybe come over and see it?
Nope.
Nah.
Hey, you wanna borrow it? You wanna like me to like send it to you?
No, it's not that. I got these screeners the way I sent that one to you, Nathan.
Yeah.
They weren't like
Oh,
discs.
wait. Hold up. You said Nathan a screener.
Yeah, because it was something I wasn't going to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was because
He has the power. He has the power to do the same thing with y'all. But
We know who your favorite is.
No, because I watched the other ones that I got.
Uh,
So I had to share that one with Nathan. It was a documentary. It didn't even, well, I don't know if it made his list. I think probably not, though.
no.
Yeah. So anyway, this movie is something else. So the director, I was interested in the story to begin with, but when I found out the director was someone from Killing Eve, a show I really like, I was very interested to see what she was going to do with this in a feature film setting. And if you've seen Killing Eve, you will recognize this style, the way it's framed, the color palette, all this stuff. It has, the movie has Adam Brody. What's the girl's name? Carey Mulligan. It has Sam Richardson, Ray Nicholson. Anyway, so basically it's the story that you see. I'm going to try and be delicate with it because I know some people still really want to see this movie. So you have a woman who goes out at night and pretends to get shit-faced drunk so that she can get guys to take her home and try to rape her, but then she snaps out of it and gets, to get revenge on them. I thought I knew the formula based on that trailer going in. I did not. There is much more happening in this movie than that. It's
It's not just a modern death wish. It's actually something else going on beneath the surface.
This movie it has a lot more going on. So what I wanted to say about this movie, and this is not the only movie on my list that this ties into, is I believe this year is the first kind of year of cinema that answers sort of the Me Too movement that happened. And this is the first movie that answers that movement. It talks about, I guess if it's a word, like the victimology, the whole victim perspective. But this, I can't get into it too much because I don't want to be spoiling it. But I will say that there's a lot more going on to this. It is a lot more nihilistic than I thought. Yeah, it's a lot more nihilistic than I thought. That's really all I can say. You take something nihilistic as fuck, but you paint it in pastel pink and super feminine style, and that's what this movie begins to be. I literally, Molly Shannon is in it in a small role, and she's good. Yeah, I don't know. It has a couple of issues that pushed it to where it is on my list, but overall, damn. When this movie was over, I was like, what the fuck did I just see? So you need to see this movie as soon as you can, because it's good. Really good. That literally, I am so annoyed because I knew I was going to be the only one who saw it, and I couldn't speak on it.
Gee, I wonder why.
Mm.
I wonder why you were going to be the only one who saw it.
Douchewad.
I mean, who knows? I guess we'll never know.
Yeah,
I guess we'll never know why you were the only one who could have seen it.
You'll never know. You'll never know. Anyway, it starts what I would call the trio of sort of Me Too films on my list, or the duo of Me Too films on my list. Yeah, and they're really, it's really good. All right, Nico.
All right, now we are at number 5.
Yes, sir.
Possessor, we're back. All right.
Oh shit, here we go.
Yeah, I think the thing that impresses me the most about the movie is how well and subtly the stars, Andrea Riseborough, Christopher Abbott, copy and merge their personality, their performances, and so you start seeing the effect that basically we already talked about how you jump into a body to kind of inhabit that body for assassinations or spying and whatnot, but you don't necessarily displace completely or make the other personality dormant. There's kind of a struggle that may happen, and the assassin character Andrea Riseborough has to struggle with the Christopher Abbott's personality. So they start kind of blending in, and that blending in is where the surrealness of the movie comes into effect. But the actors do an excellent job of copying aspects of each performance to show off that. Yeah, it's a good movie.
Cool. I'm not going to say too much because I have this sneaking suspicion we're going to have to talk about it again. So let's just move on.
Who knows?
Tina?
My number 5 is one that I was actually surprised made my list, especially as high as it is Tenet. I'm usually not full on into like the action. Like, I like James Bond, but I have to be in the mood for it kind of deal. No, this one was really well done for me. There was a couple of slow bits, but the slow bits gave me a chance to catch my breath. I'm gonna have to watch it like 12 more times just to figure out what was going on half the time. But I will say the actors, John David Washington, Robert Pattinson, Elizabeth Debicki, directed and written by Christopher Nolan. All the people who were in this did a wonderful job of portraying their characters, especially with how their characters are interacting with the world and the technology that's being used. And Nico and I made this comment as we're watching the movie. It's like, this gives me a lot of hope for Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne. Now, me and Zach are two of the people who are like, why is everybody knocking on Robert Pattinson? He's actually a really good actor. But this one is like, he really shines in a lot of this. I was very happy with this movie. I was regretting not seeing it in IMAX like you guys did.
Oh, what? No way.
Yeah, I'm not going to say too much about it right now. Let's just move on to
Who knows?
All right, number 5, The Prom, which is on Netflix. It has Meryl Streep, James Corden, Nicole Kidman, Kerry Washington, Keegan-Michael Kay, and Andrew Rannells. And it's just awesome. Ryan Murphy produced this. It was a Broadway musical brought to a film. And the best part is Meryl Streep singing a song called It's Not About Me, but it's totally about her. And it's just gay and fabulous and awesome. So check it out.
Okay. All right, Zach.
Okay, well, my number 5.
Choke on
In
it.
it. Oh my gosh, what do you know?
Who saw that coming?
Copycat.
As we just said, this is the new Christopher Nolan film, and boy, IMAX was a really special treat for this one. I actually kind of disagree with Tina in regards to Robert Pattinson. I thought he was just fine in this film. He was more pedestrian. That isn't to say he was bad. I just didn't think he had a real moment that could kind of show his range in this one.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I could say I'm the protagonist.
Yep.
Who knows? We might talk about this one a little bit longer.
We might have more to say about
Maybe
that one. Let's see. Oh shit! I didn't pull up. I've been pulling up the IMDb. I've been doing a good job of this, and I failed. So
my pre-pulled up like me.
I can't do that. Too many
And
tabs.
I forget that I have them pulled up and be like.
I mean, I just wrote my article. I just wrote my article, and I have all my info in that. So,
all right. Well, okay. So my next film is a film that, like, the style of this film is something I've kind of been missing for a while. It's like really something that's art house, like Belcordy like, but not artsy. It's just a small film. It's called Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always.
Damn it, I need to see this.
Okay, so Zach's the only one who's heard of it?
No, I've heard of it. I can't remember if it was on my list or not. I think it was.
So it's directed by Eliza Hittman, and let me just see here. The two main actresses are people like Talia Ryder, I guess. And it's no one I've heard of. Anyway, it's a really simple story, and it basically follows a young girl who is, quirky and different, who is pregnant. She's 15, I guess. 16. She's 16. And she has a challenging home life. So rather than let anybody know that she's pregnant, she gets help from her cousin to help her get to a place where she can get an abortion. And the whole movie is that journey. Basically, they do the typical thing where, they lie, where they're going to spend the night together at each other's house, but they're not, so they can get out for the weekend and get it done. And it takes a weekend to do it, or a couple of days to do it, because she's struggling to find a place that will actually do it for her. So there's a lot in this film about sort of that struggle in particularly for a girl her age, but there's more in it. And again, because no one else saw it, I don't want to get too in depth because you need to experience it. But the story is done in such a subtle way. It's not like pounding you over the head. There's times where there's no dialogue at all, but you know what's happening. You know the story. There's a time, my favorite time like that, and it's not really spoiling the story, is when the two girls, they're so stressed out. The whole thing has been a struggle. And the girl who's pregnant obviously doesn't feel good. So her cousin asks her, what do you want me to do? And her answer is like, fuck off. So she moves, they sit separate in this space that they're in. It's not important. And the cousin gets up and goes to the bathroom. So the girl gets up and goes to the bathroom too. They look at each other, and then the cousin starts taking care of her again. There's not a big long speech about, I'm so sorry, I just don't feel good. None of that is said, and it doesn't need to be said. The way they looked at each other, that they know what's happening, and they just move forward. It's more like kind of what real people would do. It's sparse and short. It's a short film. But God, I mean, for a film that's probably 80, 90 minutes, it wouldn't surprise me if the script was 25 pages long. because it's just not a lot of dialogue, and it's beautiful that way. The acting is really good. The cinematography is basic because this is an indie film, very kind of lo-fi. You should see it. It's real good. I mean, I argued with myself about this movie over and over again that it maybe could have been higher on my list. So it's on Hulu, so you can check it out. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to spoil it. Just go watch it. It's really, really good. Nico?
All right, now we're at number 4. I'm going to invert a bit to go back to a movie we were just talking about earlier, Tenet.
I saw what you did there. Invert.
Womp.
Yeah, you know what? So Tenet's a long movie. It's 2.5 hours, but there's no breathing room. I don't think it took me after the movie when I just kept thinking about the movie for me to go, I really actually like that movie a lot more than I thought I did watching it. Just because you're so caught up in everything happening, bam, 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 and it's really slick. I think I think this is Nolan's best Bond movie. Like Christopher Nolan wanted to make a Bond movie, and he made it with Tenet. And I almost wouldn't want him to do a Bond movie after this. I kept hearing like Doc Brown in the back of my head screaming, "I'm not thinking fourth dimensionally enough," of trying to figure out what's happening in this movie, especially
He said that
last
actually
act.
quite a few times during the movie.
Yes. Yeah, it was fun. I liked it. I wish I got to experience that one in theaters in IMAX. I think this is one I think would be higher on my list had I saw it in IMAX. But 4 is not bad.
4 is not bad. I'll just wait. I'm not going to say anything yet. Tina, what is your number 4?
This one I am willing to put money on that nobody else has it on their list.
Wait,
The
how
closest,
much?
$10.
$10. Okay.
The closest would be Nico, mostly because he watched it with me. It's called Over the Moon.
I have heard of it. I've heard of it.
Give me that $10, Zach.
No. You said nobody had seen it. I was just curious how much you were willing to bet. I didn't agree to the bet.
Way to cover your butt. Anyway,
We're recording. You want to go back? I said how much.
Okay, let's go.
Anyway,
yeah.
Over the Moon is this wonderfully animated film. It's actually mostly cast by Chinese actors. It takes a spin on the Moon Princess, Jade Rabbit spin, and it follows a young girl named Fei Fei, voiced by Kathy Ang, as she deals with the loss of her mother and her father moving on to, move on with his life, falling in love with someone else. Her father is voiced by John Cho. And she ends up hatching this plan to go to the moon to find the moon goddess Chengya, to prove to her father, no, you shouldn't move on. This was mom's favorite story. I can prove to you that she's real. Thus, you shouldn't move on from mom. So she builds this rocket, and her pseudo stepbrother, the woman that her dad's falling in love with, has a young son, and her stepbrother ends up like sneaking aboard and tagging along, and turns out the Moon Princess is real. Chengya is real, voiced by Philippa Sue, who played Elizabeth Schuyler in Hamilton, original Broadway cast. The first time you see this moon goddess, you think, oh, she's going to be like ethereal and very, very like elegant and a goddess, right? No, she's a pop star. She does a full-on Katy Perry-esque concert as soon as they arrive. She's jaded. She's angry at certain times. She's manipulative in certain ways, and it's a very neat take on a quest kind of storyline, because obviously the little girl wants to get some proof, so she takes a selfie. Um, but you find Chenya's motivation is she wants to bring back the love of her life because she ended up sacrificing everything and losing the love of his life, the love of her life, and it's such a heartwarming tale. Like at the end, the girl accepts her stepbrother and accepts that her dad needs to move on and all that stuff, and it's healthy and it's there's some rough animation bits. It's definitely not a Pixar quality, but
Okay, though. That's okay.
it has very charming moments. It's very heartwarming. Of course, uh, with my past, it did make me cry because
Yeah.
she loses her mom to cancer.
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah, I can see that.
But I will say my favorite character is actually voiced by Kang Jung, which is if you've seen The Hangover, um he's the Asian guy who jumps out of the car naked.
Mhm.
He plays Gobi, which is this exiled pangolin, like glowing pangolin, armadillo-esque character, and he's just off the wall, and it's like one of those characters that has you realizing the point, but in such a childish view that
Okay, so now, didn't we talk about this movie on the show when the trailer came out?
probably.
I
I
think
don't
we
remember.
did.
Maybe.
I think we did and
But I
hated on the
fell
look of it.
in love with this movie. Not only that, but if you look at the cast, you will see most of the cast is of Chinese descent, and that's very rare for uh, Hollywood. It's I hate to say it, it is.
It is.
So, and you get representation. This is one of the reasons Soul didn't make my list is you get representation without transformation. No one gets turned into a little blue blob or a frog or a pigeon who's a spy. Like none of that shit happens. They stay human throughout the entire thing. So
So where can you see it?
where did we watch
Netflix.
this? It was Netflix.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Cool. All right. Nathan?
4 is Possessor, which we saw 12 Hours of Terror. And it was one of the movies. There was 2 movies that stood out for me. It was the one about the girl who elevated herself, got skinned, blah, blah, blah. And then this movie, which was just...
What, you didn't like Black Sheep with the
You didn't like One
didn't.
Cut of the Dead?
I could do with. I mean, it was good, but of the movies that night, this one has stuck with me most.
Lord, I'm
of
going.
all. This one stuck with me most. I think about this one more than the other ones. Actually, I wouldn't even remember the name of some of the other ones,
You're
to
rude.
be honest.
You're rude.
But this movie was just so good to me. It was a great story, great storytelling, and then the eyeball. Oh, the
Yeah.
eyeball. I still
Oh,
think
man,
about
the
that, and I
teeth.
start to twitch, and I'm like,
Yeah, I had to shut my eyes.
Oh. But it's just an overall great movie. Everything we talked about earlier, and
I'll save
It's
some
number 4.
comments. I have a feeling we might hear about it again.
okay.
All right, Zach, what's your number 4?
Well, my number 4 is a little film called Possessor.
I knew it. I knew it. Okay.
So this is and make sure if you're seeing this, make sure it's the uncut version of the film. Otherwise, you're going to miss some great teeth action with a crowbar. Or
That's
with a
fair.
fire
We
poker,
all
who
saw the
knows?
uncut version.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a film that I did revisit to just make sure because I was falling asleep during our 12-hour thing. Because it's like Steven didn't know this, but really this should have been like the second film.
I hadn't seen it, but
And there was no way to know. There was no way to know.
But to be fair, if we were doing traditional 12 hours of terror, that you always end with like the hotness.
Yeah, with
And that's
something not as slow.
Mm.
See,
You know,
I
like-
didn't think this was slow. You all said it. I've heard several like, oh, it was kind of slow, but I was like, it was a
It is
gradual...
slow, but it is methodically slow. And
Yeah, I didn't find it that slow.
Yeah, it's a thought out slow. It's not a slow of, oh, I'm bored. It's a slow of, okay, what's gonna happen next? I need to know what's happening next.
yeah, it's like Blade Runner 2049 is slow.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it bad.
Yeah.
That movie's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's slow. This is slow. It's not bad. It's like I have been awake all night, and boy, I need some stimulation to keep me going here.
Yeah.
So I did revisit this, and holy shit, it's really good.
It's so
Brandon
good.
Cronenberg really must have learned something from his dad, because damn, if this is your first film, sign me up for the next one, man. Um, but I do like the themes going on of, like when the main character is having sex with like her husband, all she can think about is like killing,
Mm.
because it's like her job is kind of morphing into her identity. It's really
Well,
fascinating.
not only that, I took away from that as like that is what was her turn on. That was her drive. That's yeah.
Yeah.
So in order for her to really get into her husband, she had to be murderous.
That's
Well, that
twisted.
and it's like, who here among us hasn't brought work home once in a while? But we don't. Our job.
Well, I
isn't
mean, we're
to
all
be an
working from home
assassin.
now anyway, so
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So I loved that aspect of it.
But like we've all been talking, there is one sequence in this movie that, by God, I hope you have an audience, because as small of an audience as we had with us, just
It
us,
was fantastic.
pretty sure Ada could hear it in the other room of just
She
us
did.
cheering and
Yeah.
screaming and clapping.
Did you hear Matt in the background? He goes, "Don't you be bringing murder into our bedroom."
Don't kink shame Matt.
Right?
Damn.
All right, moving on, because I feel like this
Who
will come
knows?
up
They could
again. Yeah.
be on the list. Who knows?
Next on my list is Dick Johnson is Dead.
I wanted to see this so bad.
So Dick Johnson is Dead is a documentary that's on Netflix, and it's poignant. It's kind of sad at points. It's moving, and it's hilarious. Basically, you have a woman, this documentary filmmaker, who is dealing with the fact that her father is getting older, and afraid that he's afraid of his death. She's just afraid of how she's gonna react, how things are gonna be when he dies. So to do her own sort of therapy to deal with it, her father is Dick Johnson, by the way. To deal with it, she just starts killing him in her movie in a bunch of scenarios. She sets up these Rube Goldberg scenarios and films them of him dying over and over. And her father is such a good sport, he just fucking keeps doing it. And it tells sort of the story of them, and it talks about loss and all this stuff, but it does it in a really hilarious and fun way. I haven't seen a documentary like this in a long time. It has all the emotions. So watch it. It's good. It's on Netflix. That's it. Is Tina the only one who's heard of this other than me?
I hadn't heard of it, but it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's super good. Yeah,
the main reason I didn't watch it was around the time that I heard about it and read the description. My dad had died, and even though I had become estranged from him, it was still too sore. Yeah. So I was like, I would break down if I watched this. So it took a while for me to be in the mindset, and by the time I was in the mindset, it was like, I have like 3 days to do everything.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the thing is, that's great, is it deals with those emotions and it deals with those situations, but it balances humor so well that you do get those heavy moments, but it doesn't like weigh the movie down. Like the movie's not a big tear fest, you know. Her mental therapy of dealing with the possibility is just fascinating to watch. Really good. Nico?
All right, now we're at number 3.
Yep.
Mine's a documentary as well. John Lewis, Good Trouble. It's a documentary on the civil rights icon and politician John Lewis, who passed away earlier this year. This is the one I was referencing when I mentioned politically relevant documentary material.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, like the movie opens with him walking to the Capitol, and for posterity's sake, I watched this past weekend, which is the weekend after the Capitol riots. So it's like, oh, that's
timing.
It also covers, so the documentary goes back and forth, basically telling Lewis's life as he joined the civil rights movement in the 60s and then eventually getting into politics in the late 80s. To modern day ish. So about 2018 is when a lot of this was filmed. So going into the 2018 elections, and it covers the election night and how he was a congressman from Atlanta covering that area. So it covered a lot of Georgia. So Georgia, for instance, the Stacey Abrams, Brian Kemp race. Brian Kemp won, the Republican, and goes over losses like that. And Stacey Abrams is in it for a little bit. And it feels like almost a prequel to 2020 because of how the election turned out this year, where Georgia went blue in its Senate seats and voting for Biden and a lot of other stuff like that. And it also interviews with a lot of then freshman Congress people like AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is in it, and some of the others, talking about the impact that Lewis has had on their career that helped them get to where they're at. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Cool.
Hour and a half.
Where can you see that?
HBO Max.
I'd watch that. That sounds really good. I'm down. I need some positive politically related stuff. That sounds good. I'll watch it.
Okay.
All right, Tina, what you got?
Well, don't come for me to uplift it. My number 3 is Relic.
Here we go.
I enjoyed
fucking go
out of this movie. For me, it was like super creepy. The dementia aspect added a touch of. I love the movies that it's like, did that really happen, or did they just imagine that happen? That's always been like one of my weaknesses. Sitting there watching the movie, like, I'm really into it when I'm clapping, like when you do that whole like, don't go in there or get rid of it. Like, I was sitting there doing that for like multiple parts throughout the movie. I'm like, stupid. One of the things that I really loved about this movie is, and it's a small scene too, but they cast Chris Button as a star, who is an actor who has Down syndrome. And you would think, like, a lot of times when they cast an actor who has Down syndrome, they make that part of the story and use it as like a kind of like a plot element or something. They have to have a reason to have a Down syndrome actor in the movie. No, he's just a neighbor kid. Hey, guess what? You encounter these people. They don't have any reason to be in your life. They're just there.
Yeah.
Fucking deal with it. But it stars Robin Niven, Emily Mortimer, Bella Heathcote. It's a New Zealand film, so it's directed by Natalie Erica James. Basically, it tells the story of like a daughter, mother, and grandmother. They go to the grandmother's house. It's haunted by like manifestations of her dementia and family history. And oh man, it's so creepy. It is so creepy. And like the mold and it's so good.
Zach, you got anything to say about this movie?
Who knows?
So I knew this movie was going to come up. I knew it was going to come up once in somebody's list. I didn't know it was going to come up in yours.
Who knows what I would have to say about it? We'll have to wait for that.
You know what? Then I'm going to save my comments till then. Yeah. I'm going to wait because it'll be more pertinent at that point in time anyway. All right, Nathan, what do you got?
My number 3 is Unhinged, and it is the Russell Crowe suspense movie that I just fell in love with. I got really lucky. I didn't have to pay $20 for it. I went to Redbox and I was like, oh, you can rent it for $1.80 or you can buy it used for $3. And I was like,
you bought it for $20, right?
I bought it for $3. Bought it for $3 and Steven has it. He was supposed to watch it. But basically a story of just overall rage. And the opening scene is what really drew me in, with blood splatter and sound and everything. You just did not know what was going on.
Don't spoil it. I'm still going to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely a ride. It's great. I absolutely loved it.
So one thing that I have heard across the board when I was looking, because I
Mhm.
got annoyed that I didn't get a chance to watch it because I was intending to see it before we did our lists. So I did just go and take a look, and even the bad reviews of the movie say that Russell Crowe is compelling as a villain in it, which I wouldn't have any doubt on that.
Russell Crowe in this, like, I'm like, dang, where's this guy been? I haven't seen this guy in a while.
What, you haven't seen Virtuosity?
Mm.
I don't know. I'm going to see it. I'm disappointed I didn't get to see it before we did our lists, but I have a feeling it wouldn't have impacted the list specifically.
Literally, the whole opening scene is what really, because I was just left speechless and my heart races thinking about the movie. So
yeah, and you text me partway through. You're like, I'm standing up. I'm standing up.
I'm standing up. Like, when I tell you, like, I even texted Ada or talked to her earlier today, and I was like, my heart is pounding thinking about this movie, because I was like, has Steven watched it yet? Has Steven watched it yet? No.
It's a little bit of a crazy day. I was going to try and catch it this morning, and it just didn't work out for me. All right. So, Zach, what do you got?
Well, my number 3 is a independent movie you might have heard of. It's called The Hunt.
Might have heard of that. Can't
You'll
wait
hear
to find
about
your
it
list.
later.
Another one that I wanted to see.
So this is the political movie that was so politically divisive that it had to be delayed until 2020. And by God, it had to come out on March 13th, which, if anybody remembers, that's the day everything went to shit.
No, it came out before that.
That was the day.
It came out before.
It came out before.
It had to have come out before that because the tornadoes were previous to that.
I hate to tell you this, but according to IMDb, March 13th.
Well, I'm sure that's not right because
Steven and I saw it in February because it's from February. Yeah.
Yeah.
In theaters at Green Hills.
Yeah. If I look back on my letterbox,
check your ticket, girl.
Because we had tornado and I was here at this house for weeks with no power.
I mean, it says the earliest release date was March 11th in the UK.
Yeah, especially if you saw it before the tornadoes. Those were March 2nd through 3rd. So
yeah, we saw it pre-tornado. It was the last movie that I saw in the theater.
Well, anyway, this is actually, it was the film that basically a lot of people went, this is horrible. They're hunting Republicans. It's an anti-Republican movie. This is a political satire that points the shotgun at every political side.
Everybody.
And all the well-known actors die fairly quick.
I have to say, I've only seen like a clip, and it's like, you know, the poster where it's like that girl in the floofy jacket, like the blue jacket with the thing in her mouth.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so she must be the main character. I will say I was wrong in that impression just from the clip I watched.
That sucks because it spoiled it for you.
That opening scene, so we went to the drive-in to see this. I think I saw one early trailer and I don't even remember it. And we saw some crappy movie before this, and then this comes on.
Yeah, it was the movie with the comedian who he got his eye popped out.
Yeah,
movie.
Becky,
that's it.
And then this comes on. Do you know how rare it is that I burst out loud laughing, hearty, loud laugh?
Let me just add real quick. This is also my number 3. It's funny. It's my number 3 because I've seen it 3 times. I saw it in the theater with Nathan. Me and Nathan and Rosalie went and saw it, and then they announced it at the drive-in. And I told Zach, I'm like, oh shit. Bitch, we got to see it. We got to see it. And I knew it was going to be one of those things where either he was going to love it like us or think it was stupid. And this bitch was laughing like an asshole sitting beside me.
It had some jokes in there where they say the joke, and then you can literally see Zach. If you literally point a camera at me, processing joke, ding. Then I laugh. I have this really long, 5-second delay and laughing at joke.
I mean, you need to download more RAM.
Right?
I need more dedicated RAM.
I can't believe you guys haven't seen it because it's been out on everywhere for a while.
Oh, I've seen it 5 times, and you'll see it here.
A lot of it is just time. By the time I think of it or remember it, it's like, oh, well, I'm busy and I'll watch it this weekend, and something happens.
This movie literally, I thought it was going to be attack on the Republicans also, which I've seen that before.
Man, 3 out of 10 on these trailers, but I mean, how else do you sell it?
They sold it the right way. And the fact that you already know, because see, the trailers all led me to believe that the girl that's in the trailers is main actress. I didn't know going in. I didn't know what you know now. And in the first couple of minutes, it's a shocker. You're like, oh shit. All right.
When that thing happens, it was literally like, what the fuck?
What the fuck is just happening right now? Yeah. This movie is action packed and it's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I love it so
But
much.
it's also a great political satire and
It
holding up
really
the mirror
is.
and going, I think y'all are taking this a bit too fucking seriously, assholes.
Poor
And
Gary.
Stop doing this shit, you know?
And some of it is heavy-handed a couple of times. But when you're gonna but when you're gonna have something that is this chock full of political satire, you're gonna have a couple misses. And to the like success of the movie, there's only a couple. Generally, it all works really well. You guys need to. This will be something you guys need to watch soon, Nico and Tina, because it's super good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's straight up my alley. So
you will love it. All right, Nico.
All right. Now we're at number 2. Now Sonic the Hedgehog.
Wow. What?
I love it. I'm a huge Sonic fan. I
love Sonic too, but
Sonic was one of my
favorite.
I really enjoyed the and this also goes into one of those things. I saw this one in theaters, so it got super extra bonus points.
Fair enough.
But yeah, this movie is better than it had any right to be. I do have awkward feelings about the backlash of the early character concepts and designs and how they basically were kind of guilted into redoing all that CGI. But the final product is solid. Everybody's really good in it. Ben Schwartz's Sonic is spot on. Jason Marsden has a very cliched role of the live action human tag along to the CGI animal character, but he works. Like the chemistry between those two characters comes through really well. Jim Carrey steals every single scene he's in. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed this movie, and I just keep thinking back about how much I really enjoyed this movie.
All right, fair enough. All right, number 2. Wow. All right, Tina.
My number 2 is also a movie that Nico and I saw in theaters. We saw it in like January. It's called The Gentleman. It stars Matthew McConaughey, Charlie Hunnam, Michelle Dockery. It has Colin Farrell and Hugh Grant. It is directed by Guy Ritchie, and it's basically like a mafia, like a British mafia kind of thing where an American expat is trying to sell off his highly profitable marijuana empire in London, and that triggers plots, schemes, bribery, and blackmail in an attempt to steal his domain out from under him. The performances that stood out for me, really, were Michelle Dockery, who plays Rosalind Pearson, who is the main character's wife. I loved Hugh Grant's character Fletcher, who plays the reporter who's trying to break the story on this empire, this mafia showdown. But really, the person who steals the entire movie for me is Colin Farrell, who plays Coach, who is like this retired enforcer who decides to like just teach the neighborhood kids how to like fight and defend themselves, but the neighborhood kids also like do on their own, do like side crime and fuck up like Matthew McConaughey's one of his product warehouses. And so Matthew McConaughey and his crew go to Coach and be like, these are your boys, and see what he does. And he's like, I could use you. I could really use you. Oh God, it's so fun. It is action packed. Like there was hardly a slow moment in this movie. There's ways that you think it's gonna go, and it turns around and it's like, not at all. No. Pulls the rug right out from under you. And if you can watch this while drinking a good scotch or good whiskey, you need to, because the entire time I was just sitting there munching popcorn. I was like, I should have got like a whiskey and Coke slushie from upstairs. I should have. Oh, it was so much fun.
I saw that in the movie in the theater too, and I remember enjoying it. I liked Matthew McConaughey in it because he felt so out of place to me.
Yeah.
Because it had a very British gangster movie vibe going on, and then there's Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, it's like everybody is speaking in like British accents, and then here's Matthew McConaughey with his all right accent.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that just sweetened it.
Yeah. I mean, it was good for me. Yeah. Nico, go ahead. What were you going to
say? No, it's fine.
Yeah, it was good. I kind of, like, you reminded me of some of the good things in it, though. I just hadn't thought about it in quite a while. Now I got to revisit it.
Yeah. Like I said, Scotch.
There you go. Well, then that's after I'm done with the keto.
Yeah.
All right. Nathan?
My number 2 is Soul. I freaking watched this movie like 5 or 6 times since it came out over Christmas. And each time, I mean, I just love it. The animation's wonderful. The music is just so soulful. You get really moved by the story. Tina Fey was by far my favorite, just as far as her humor. Graham Norton was really good in it. He plays a psychedelic, like, dream guy who in the real world is flipping signs out in front of a shop. He's like this wild hippie. One of my favorite parts is like when Tina Fey gets to taste, because she was just a soul that went through random things and never got to go to Earth, but she gets to taste pizza for the first time, and I'm like, that is me. It's freaking awesome. It's just so good.
Because you came to Earth also?
Yeah, well, I came out of it because you see souls get thrown into like these little generators, and that's how like they get kind of characteristics of themselves. And I'm like, I wonder what mine was like. Like, okay, I got thrown into a porn shop, then I was a rainbow sparkle fairy, and then yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Everybody loves this movie. I guess I'm gonna have to look at it at some point.
Everyone asterisk.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Zach?
All right, so my number 2 is a film called Boys State.
That's the one
I wanted to watch that. Yeah,
Boys State was almost on my list. Almost.
Nico wanted to watch it because he was in Boys State.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So this is a documentary about the Boys State that is in Austin, Texas. I believe it's Austin? In Texas. Where it's 1,017-year-old guys come together and they form a mock representative government, and they from the ground up essentially. So they basically vote in who they want, and then try to actually do legislation. It's absolutely fascinating to see this microcosm of American politics in action with essentially like the next generation of would-be politicians, and who are the sociopaths and who are the people there who actually want to change things and who are there to basically have it as a ego trip sort of thing. Absolutely fascinating. It's one of those like rare films that even though I was watching this at home, I was just glued to the screen the whole time going, oh my God. One, this is really well shot.
It is well shot.
Two, I feel really jealous about this because I'm like,
yeah,
damn
exactly.
it, why didn't I think of this?
Yeah, because we would have crushed that. That's in our wheelhouse in a lot of ways. The more I think about it, the more angry I am that it's not on my list in a lot of ways, because it's so good. Because I got so invested in the fucking election. I was so invested in it. And, when you see these kids pulling really terrible political bullshit on each other, and one of them doing terrible shit and saying, well, Trump does it. I'm like, oh my God.
There was one character, it's like they introduced him, and you can maybe figure it out. I'm not going to say who it is, but they introduce him, and I'm like, I think, you're a pretty neat guy. And by the end of it, I'm like, you're a fucking asshole. You're a prick. You know what? You are the reason, like, get the fuck out of here. You just are everything wrong with politics.
That was me when I went to Boys State.
I think the only negative takeaway that I really kind of had from the film is I think I did feel like it was long. Like I think
didn't get that at all.
I felt, yeah. I mean, it's minor. Like literally, it's right there. Could have been on my list.
Well, it's because they're still in high school.
It's just, yeah, maybe. It's so damn good though. You guys need to see that movie. Yeah, I agree with.
The only real negative I have against it is that why is this on Apple TV Plus? Nobody's gonna fucking watch this on Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I haven't seen it yet.
Well, and that's been my argument from the beginning, is so many great things are disappearing streaming wise. I could imagine seeing this in our local art house on the second floor in the small screening room, I did Hail Satan, and I would have been and the same way I did RGB, and I would have been coming out of it just raving about it. It's good. Damn it! You're annoyed that it's not on my list.
Dude, I remember like A24 having a hand in this, and they are nowhere in the credits. They are nowhere anything. They're on the poster.
Yeah, that's it.
I guess A24 is in charge of theater distribution, and it just got fucked.
Yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe that's what it is. All right, so next on my list, number 2 is Possessor. So when we're talking about our criteria earlier, one of the criteria that we discussed, all of us that had discussed it in some form, was, is it a movie that sticks with you? And this movie stuck with me. It's both complex and simple at the same time, and that's really hard to do. There's a lot of sort of social commentary happening in the film that makes it more complex, on top of what's essentially a pretty simple story. But I was thinking about this comparison, and really, what is his name? His first name, the director?
Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon Cronenberg is to David Cronenberg like Joe Hill is to Stephen King. Like literally, they are so cut from the same cloth in that way. Because I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking about David Cronenberg films like Spider that aren't super complicated, but boy, they really make an impact and just stay with you. And this thing could have easily been style over substance. And when we started it, none of us had seen it. And at first blush, I was thinking, oh man, it's going to be style over substance. But as it progressed, I just got more and more invested in it. And then there's it starts off with a literal bang to begin with. And then that scene that everybody's been talking about was one of the best movie viewing experiences I had this year.
It was an eyeful.
It was an eyeful. But yeah, there's not much more to be said other than what you guys have said, except it's higher on my list because it's so unique to everything else I saw this year. I mean, it's in and of itself. He is like his father, but not riffing on his father. Like you're not looking at this thinking, oh, well, he just, took this from his dad or whatever. He's got his own thing, but he's cut from that same cloth. And I love it. I love it. And definitely you want to see the uncut one for sure. You got to get the full impact. All right. So we're ready for the big reveal.
Our number ones.
Nico.
The Gentleman, directed by Guy Ritchie.
That is your number one movie.
That was the number one. Yep. It was so fun. I really enjoyed this movie. It's Guy Ritchie back to doing, British crime movies like Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. It's his wheelhouse, and he's great at it. And this movie's just fun. I love how it looks. I love the dress. I want every single suit that McConaughey and Hutton wear in this movie.
I also want you to have every single suit that they wear.
I love that it's really an ensemble piece because you have these great performances by everybody. McConaughey, Hutton, Michelle Dockery, Hugh Grant, Colin Farrell is great. And no one's overshadowing anybody. I think they all put in fantastic performances. It's just fun. It's good crime thriller fun movie stuff that I just had a good time with. And I was putting my list together, and I'm like, I saw that movie all the way back in January, and
yeah, same
in a theater,
and it still stuck with us.
And it stuck with me. And a large part of that is I saw it in a theater. I was
gonna say I feel like
locked in.
It really is the impact of not seeing films the rest of this year. that is having a strong effect on our lists.
Yeah, because I mean, it's the theatrical experience that in Sonic again was number 2, and I saw that one in theater. Those really locked in to my enjoyment of those. So yeah.
It also makes me a little bit sad in a way because I mean it's a fine movie. It's fine. I had a good time with it when I saw it. Like I said, there's good moments. It is well done. It's a good, sort of action mobster type film. But I'm like, if you had seen this, or if you'd seen this, or this one, I feel like it might have impacted your list in a different way. But it's just so hard to see things now because, like Zach's talking about his movie. If you don't have Apple TV, you can't see it. Or if you don't have Hulu, you can't see it. Ugh, it kills me. But I'm glad you didn't pick something on the level of Black Hat.
Or if you don't have a screener, you can't see it.
Well,
Yeah.
Shade thrown.
I take the shade. It keeps my head from burning.
Yeah, you need it.
Mm-hmm. Tina, what is your number one?
My number one is actually a movie we've already discussed, but it was a while ago.
Yep.
My number one is Palm Springs. This is Andy Samberg, Kristen Milioti, J.K. Simmons. And I'll tell you why I love it. Now, I love Andy Samberg. Love him since Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Great. The person who shines to me the most is Kristen Milioti, her character. Because, yeah, you get the Groundhog Day. And one of the main things about Groundhog Day scenarios that just irks me is the main character always has that same mentality of, okay, I'm going to do it right this time. I'm going to memorize everything. I'm going to, memorize the sequence of events. And, oh, here's this. Kristen Milioti's character has a completely different approach. She tries so many things to get out of it at first, which, Bill Murray, Happy Death Day, all of them do, right? But then she cracks it. So each day when she wakes up, she's studying like quantum physics. She's learning. She's taking like years and years. Like they literally say they've done this for years, even before she got sucked into the time loop. Years and years of learning quantum physics to fix her situation. She doesn't try to be like, oh, the good human approach. No, she's like, fuck this science.
Okay.
But I will tell you the scene that sucked me into this movie, like completely, was early on in the film when Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti's characters are getting it on for the first time. And all of a sudden, Andy Samberg kind of like sits up and you're like, what's going on? They're into it. And an arrow comes through and hits him in like the leg or something. I'm like, wait, what? J.K. Simmons turns out to be like super angry at Andy Samberg and knows that there's not going to be any repercussions if he kills him. So he takes it upon himself, like every couple of days when he thinks about how angry he is, he just drives out to the location and tries to kill Andy Samberg.
Okay, that's pretty funny. And I love J.K. Simmons.
Hilarious.
Now you might have just convinced me to watch the movie now.
It has some of the cliche moments, and a lot of those you see in the main character. Niles, played by Andy Samberg. And you're like, okay, we get that regurgitated every couple of years. It's Sarah and Roy's character development that really makes this movie shine to me. And it takes that rehashing formula and like turns it on its head. Not to mention it's like the shooting and the cinematography, you think, oh, there's nothing big like Tenet, or there's no gorgeous animation like Soul. And that's one of the reasons I love it, is because it's so simple. Like they really let the beauty of the surrounding scenery speak for itself. They really let the set designers and the prop makers, they let them take the cake on, just everything in this movie, and I love it. Absolutely love it.
Nice. I guess I'm about to watch it. Nathan, what is your number one?
My number one is The Hunt. I freaking love that movie, and it holds up every single time I watch it.
It really does.
Like, none of the jokes fail. There is a part in there where she is telling the story of the tortoise and the hare, and it is the most dark, cynical version of the tortoise and the hare, and it is executed so brilliantly. Like,
that actress is so good. She's so good.
She plays Liberty Bell in the series Glow, and she is just phenomenal. I felt bad for Gary. I felt bad for Hilary Swank at the end because she's like,
don't be too spoiling.
Dude,
Don't be too
spoiler.
Hey, it's been out for over a year or almost a year.
You know what?
Yeah.
All right.
It's been out for almost a year, and y'all, seriously, it is just so good.
I'm gonna let him spoil all he wants. I'm just glad Mulan didn't make his list.
No,
Right? I
Mulan
kept waiting.
So happy
was
about that.
expecting.
Yeah, I kept waiting.
No,
Oh,
Mulan wasn't going to make my list. I highly enjoyed Mulan, but it wasn't like of all the things that I have on my list, like this is my set top 10. So, but The Hunt, and you learn how to make the perfect grilled cheese. Like,
okay, inside baseball on that perfect grilled cheese situation. That scene, without spoiling, other than the fact that someone makes the perfect grilled cheese, someone in my house makes her grilled cheese exactly the same way.
mm-hmm.
And Nathan and I lost our shit watching that. Because
and we can't get her to sit there and
watch the
see
movie.
that scene. Just that scene. We can't even get her to watch that scene.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot I saw it an extra time because I tried to show it to her, to Ada.
But Pepito's watched it.
He said, Ada's brother stayed and watched it. But there's a gory moment early on in the movie, and Ada's like, fuck this. And she left. She's like, left the room. No, I'm done.
But when I tell you, like, it is completely different than what the trailers led it to be. And it's brilliant. It's honestly just brilliant. The overall social commentary, everything about it is just, and it came out in the perfect year, to be honest. Like,
I was about to say, can I comment on the fact that a lot of our movies, it seems like a lot of our lists shine on like gore and horror and like that kind of mentality.
It has been my mood of 2020. Yeah, that has been my
Love
2020 mood. All right, Zach, you're number one.
All right, so here it is, the big one.
Here we go.
The one that
There we go.
basically the moment it was over, I'm like, it's gonna be really damn hard to top that. And it is a very divisive film. Currently, it's a 5.9 on IMDb.
It's Mulan.
So basically, that means that there are two types of people: those that enjoy shitty horror, like Blumhouse movies, and those that enjoy good horror and have know what good horror is. That movie's called Relic.
Relic.
Yeah.
So I reserved my comment for Zach's picking of Relic because Zach and I saw it together. And I also really loved Relic. I thought it was really, really good. And the only reason it is not on my list is what?
Well,
it was dark as fuck. It was dark as fuck. I couldn't see shit. It was so damn.
You need to go tell. You need to go tell the Stardust to fix that bulb. And
I was gonna say I saw a lot of stuff pretty fine on my screen.
Well, we saw it at the. Yeah, you saw it at home. We saw it in the drive-in, and normally seeing stuff in the drive-in has been good because their projection has been good. But that experience was it was a great movie seen in a bad way for me because the darker scenes were also washed out. It was like they needed a new bulb because it was hard to see a lot of it. I mean, I look over at Zach, I'm like, what the fuck's happening?
They might have also been running their bulbs more than usual.
But yeah, it was true, but they were running them every single night.
Yeah.
But it feels so good to have a horror film that one is freaky, two that's well crafted, and three has like social commentary to it. Yep. The ending, especially because I won't spoil it here, because it's been out for 8 months, but I'm not going to be that guy.
You should see this movie.
The ending, the ending shot is like horrifying.
Yeah, it really is.
But then you realize what it means, and it's fantastic.
Yeah,
and then
Nico
walking to the
walked in on that
concessions or whatnot, just
like, what
hype after that, and hearing so many people go, "Man, that was boring." Man, that wasn't scary. It's like
we did hear that. Yeah,
you fucking lost what the movie was about.
No, there were some like legit terrifying moments in that movie.
No, Zach and I went. We made our last ditch run to the bathroom after the movies were over, and we did. We heard people going like running up ahead of us, going, "That was horror, man."
Now, without spoiling anything, the ones that come to mind are like legit the hallway scenes.
Yeah,
those are
I love
terrifying.
like the daughter's reactions to realizing she is like completely in over her head. She goes,
Yeah,
"Oh fuck this!" and turns around.
yeah.
I was like, you know what? If you got to use an F word, that's a pretty great
Nico was
example.
like, "How big is this house?"
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. Would strongly recommend. It's the only film that absolutely got me just jazzed. Like walking, from the car to the concession stand, just like, "Ugh!"
yeah.
I had like
have
5 movies
no
like that
complaints.
last year, and I get
No
one this
complaints.
year. Okay.
I agree. It's good. It's
Yeah.
really good. I just wish I could have seen some parts of it a little bit better, and that's the only reason it's not on my list, because it's good. It is a good fucking movie. But speaking of that feeling that Zach had, I think I am the only one that had this feeling coming out of this movie. My number one pick of the year is Tenet, and it's for a lot of reasons. One, it was the best theatrical experience I had of the year, hands down.
So when you were walking out, like, I remember you saying like, "Man, I'm the protagonist." Like, because the
Yeah.
film is such a fuckery of your head, I was still like, it's good, it's good. I'm just trying to wrap my brain around it, and that's why I was so subdued walking out. I'm just like, I don't know, I need time.
I was like, damn.
Coming out of second screening, I was like on the same level you were, where I was just like, oh baby, that was good.
It's this movie is complicated. Now it's going to piss some people off because it's purposefully complicated. Christopher Nolan wrote the movie to fuck with you. He did. And some people don't like that. Sometimes I don't like it. But when Nolan does it, this is not the first time he did it with Interstellar. He did it with Inception. This, to me, could be part of a trilogy of the Christopher Nolan fuck with your mind movies. I just was riveted by it. The story was fascinating to me. It was complicated. It was deep. You had to pay attention the whole time. We saw it in an IMAX theater. There's IMAX fucking footage, and it was beautiful.
Over an hour, like half the movie at least, was in
Yeah.
IMAX.
When it just popped on the screen, it was like, boom, this is cinema. This is what it's about. And the reason it's number one, I mean, The Hunt was almost my number one. I was almost right there with you, Nathan. But the reason this movie is number one is probably because I saw it in a different way than a lot of people probably would have. And I know that day, I mean, it like brought a tear to my eye, not because the story required it. It was because I'm watching this thinking, this movie is a tribute to movie making, because you're watching it. And he went back to like the Lawrence of Arabia fucking approach to making movies. We're going to
200 visual effects shots in the whole film.
We're going to do
which is very little.
Yeah, we're going to shoot on location. We're going to use miniatures. We're going to use stuntmen. We're not going to fuck with CGI. We're going to actually make a movie.
I need 1,000 extras for this shot.
We're going to actually crash a plane into a building.
We're going to crash a plane for real.
My jaw dropped when that scene happened. It was just like, holy shit.
And at that when the closing credits started in that film, I understood at that moment why Christopher Nolan was being such an asshole about
it having a theater
distribution.
Yeah.
Because this movie is a lot of things. But if you're a cinephile, if you're someone who cares about movies, you can see this is a love letter to the way filmmaking used to be, and the way it still is for certain filmmakers. And that pulled a tear out of me, because you don't see films like that anymore. I love the MCU movies, most of them, but they're cartoons in comparison. It's all CGI and green screen. He goes to the location and shoots there. He builds miniatures and blows them up. He crashes a real airplane. This stuff is things that you might not ever see again in the theater. And for me, that's what made this number one. And even if all of this hadn't happened and we'd been going to the theater all year, because of that, this still would have been number one. And on top of that, on multiple viewings, you get a little bit more every time you see it. I thought Robert Pattinson was okay. He didn't like. I agree that he didn't have with what Zach said earlier, that he didn't have that moment, that's like, oh my God, he's a good actor. But I don't think it's his fault. I think the movie just didn't offer that to him because it wasn't about that. It wasn't that kind of, defining moment type of film. But he was good. He was fine, If this thing comes back out in theaters and you haven't seen it in theater,
it will. I'm
Yeah.
positive that this is
No,
going to get like a
it's-
limited IMAX release.
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel like it will too, and I think we should all go.
If you have a chance
Absolutely.
to see it on 15 per 70 mil.
Because watching this on TV, the fact that there are miniatures in shots and that kind of stuff won't matter to you as much as until it's on a screen the size of a building and you can see the detail. My blind ass could see the detail of that, and the best CGI still doesn't quite do it like the real stuff does. So I loved it. 22 films I saw in the theater this year, and I don't know how many everywhere else. So many. But that's my list. That's all you guys' list.
What about honorable mentions?
2.5 hours. We're done. Let's
Yeah.
end it.
Okay, so our honorable mentions.
Shut up.
I have like one I can guess, but that's about it.
Mine was just Bad Boys. That movie should have sucked, and it didn't. It was fun.
There we go.
Borat's subsequent film, it was what we needed.
All right. Sign offs.
Nathan?
Oh, you can see me at
Oh, I was just asking if you had an honorable
Oh.
mention to say it real quick.
The Owners on Hulu.
Oh, yeah. I got to see that one.
I have one honorable mention. Sorry, Nico. Superpower Dogs. It is like a 90-minute movie. Really goes into detail about dogs being like scent workers and stuff.
God damn it.
Adorable.
I thought it was about dogs with superpowers. I was all in.
No.
All
It's
right,
narrated by Chris Evans. That's why she likes it.
Of course. Nico, did you have one you just want to spit out?
No, I think I'm good.
I hear
All right.
Oliver.
He's screaming for his food. So I hope you guys enjoyed our top 10s of 2020. I guess we'll be doing an Oscar game. I think the Oscars are still happening. That'll be our next big event show. So
Sometime
Are
in the future.
Yeah.
I guess that is it still the same time? Are we going to have that in February and all that stuff?
No, it's not February. I think it's like April.
Okay, and then we'll be back to the regular jam next week. So, Nico, where do we find you on the internet?
Find me on Twitter and Instagram under Nico Scream, NIKOSCREAM.
Tina?
You can find me Instagram and Twitter under CheddarPopper, CHEDRPOPPR. Look for those book reviews starting the Pop Sugar 2021 challenge. And also make sure to check out the puppy at the.shadow.pupper.
Nathan?
Instagram, Nate_R_70. Hopefully playing fantasy film ball in the fall.
Hopefully.
And Dead by Daylight, Nate70471, along with Fortnite, Nate70471.
Oh, Jesus.
Yep. Zach?
You can find me on Discord as well as Steam, A Dangerous Lunatic. And you can also find me on Instagram. I'm Master of the Matrix 91. Recently, I have been playing Wolfenstein 2. I went ahead and finished. It was okay. And I started to play I Expect You to Die, which is a whole hell of a lot of fun. Steven, you should play it.
Is it on Mac?
It's on VR.
Oh, well, then I'll have to wait for that one.
But hey, I guess I Expect You to Die.
Probably will. So find me over on all things CultureSmash, mostly on the Facebook page, but also at Off the Shelf Movie Night on YouTube, and all of us here on this show. As of the recording of this, we're having some server issues we're working out for the website, but it will be back in the next day. That is going to be my date. I'm taking my day off tomorrow to fix the server issue. So I guess we'll see everybody next week.
Bye, everybody.